2020 meeting of the California Board of Pharmacy. My name is Greg Lippy, President of the Board. As we get started today, it's my pleasure to first welcome Jason Wise, our newest board member. Jason is a public member recently appointed by the Senate Rules Committee. Jason, welcome. Next, before we convene, I advise all individuals observing or participating in the meeting that the meeting is being conducted consistent with the provisions of Governor Gavin Newsom's Executive Order N-29-20. Participants watching the webcast will only be able to observe the meeting. Anyone interested in participating must join the WebEx meeting. Information and instructions are posted on the board's website. All public phone lines are currently on mute. I will announce when we are accepting public comment on the various issues, and staff will open the lines as appropriate. I've advised the meeting moderator to allot 2 minutes to each individual providing comments. This approach is necessary to facilitate the meeting and ensure the board has the opportunity to complete its necessary business, including consideration of petitions as included on the meeting agenda. I appreciate everyone's understanding and patience as we navigate this meeting format. Before we get started, I will ask the meeting moderator to provide general instructions. Moderator, please go ahead.
Thank you, President Lippy. Just a few things before we get started as reminders. If you're not speaking, please keep your microphone muted. This will eliminate any distractions by background noise. If I hear direct background noise coming from your microphone, I may mute you myself. Please remember to identify yourself before speaking. When muting and unmuting your microphone and are waiting for people to respond to questions, please remember to allow some lag time for the technology. For public comment, we will be facilitating that through a WebEx question and answer feature. When the president advises us they are ready for a public comment, we will open this feature. And at that point, we will announce that the public can make comments. You will need to do that by clicking on an icon on your screen and entering, "I would like to make a public comment," and submitting that to all panelists. When we get to that phase of the meeting, we will be displaying instructions on the screen as well, as you can see now. For members of the public, it is not necessary to identify yourself in order to make a public comment. I will be taking comments in the order that they were received. And you, as President Lippy advised, you will have 2 minutes to make a public comment. I'll remind you when there is 10 seconds left, and then I will mute your microphone at the end of the 2 minutes. That's it.
Okay, thank you. As indicated on the agenda, the board will convene in closed session after deliberating on all the open session items except adjournment. Due to technological limitations, adjournment will not be broadcast. Adjournment will immediately follow closed session, and there will be no other items of business discussed. I will now take a roll call to establish a quorum. And members, as I call your name, please remember to open your line before speaking. First one is Debbie Veal.
Hi, Debbie Veal, licensee.
Thank you. Ricardo Sanchez.
Ricardo Sanchez, public member.
Thank you. Albert Wong. Albert.
Albert Wong, professional member.
Thank you. Sung Ho.
Hi, I'm here, Greg.
Thank you. Ryan Brooks.
I'm here, public member.
Thank you. Jig Patel.
I'm here.
Thank you, Jig. Cheryl Butler. Is Cheryl here?
No, Lavonda Cheryl Butler, professional member.
Great. Thanks, Cheryl. Maria Serpa.
Here, professional member.
Thank you. Jason Wise.
Good morning, Jason Weiss, public member here.
Thank you, Jason. And I'm Greg Lippy, public member, and we now have a quorum. So next item, The board will now entertain any public comments for items not on the agenda. To facilitate this portion of the meeting, as I previously announced, staff will open up the phone line for individuals to provide public comment. As the moderator mentioned, you are not required to identify yourself, but you may do so. As we open the lines, I would like to remind everyone that the board cannot take action on these items except to decide whether to place an item on a future agenda. Members, following the public comments for this agenda item, I will survey you to determine if any of you would like to place an item on a future agenda. Moderator, please open the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator. At the direction of the board, I've opened the Q&A feature for public comment. If you would like to make a public comment, please click on the icon with the question mark located at the bottom of the right-hand corner of your screen. We're sharing instructions on the screen now. As a reminder, we will take comments in the order that they are received. In the bottom of your screen, you will enter, "I would like to make a public comment," and send it to all panelists. I will pause a moment to allow submission of public comment requests. An individual identified as Danny Abifidel, and I apologize for the pronunciation of your name, has requested to make a comment. Danny, I have unmuted your microphone. You have 2 minutes.
Hi, thank you, board. And you said that perfectly correct, actually. That's kudos to that. I just wanted to see if you guys can add to the agenda pharmacies that have one pharmacist staffing and the staffing ratio of pharmacists to technicians. I understand the current law is first pharmacist, 1 tech, second pharmacist, 2 techs. I find that a little interesting that one pharmacist is competent only to supervise 1 technician, but having a second pharmacist unseemingly to be able to supervise 2 technicians seems a little unfair to the first pharmacist and independent pharmacies where they can't afford to hire 2 pharmacists but have the volume for a second tech and doesn't quite justify the volume for hiring a second pharmacist. I'd like the consideration to potentially change the laws to allow in community pharmacies, just like it is in inpatient pharmacies and hospitals, to have 2 technicians to 1 pharmacist, even if there's only 1 pharmacist present.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you.
We have additional comments?
I'm checking the panel one more time. I do not see any additional requests for comment at this time. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Okay.
Q&A panel is closed.
Okay. Members, after receiving public comment, I'm now going to take a roll call to see if any of you would like to place an item on the future agenda. So I'll start with Sung Ho. Please remember to unmute.
I'm good, Greg, but I would like to I can make a motion to put that gentleman's comment on the agenda as well.
Okay. We'll make that a motion. Do we have a second?
Second, that is a jig.
Greg, this is Maria. I'd like to suggest the motion be amended slightly, if that's
okay.
That we send it to the appropriate committee, probably just licensing that would cover this.
Okay. Do you accept that amendment, Sung?
Absolutely.
Okay. And how about you, Jig?
I'll second that, yeah.
Okay. Okay, very good. So the motion then is to submit it to the proper committee. Okay. Any other comments about this? Not hearing any. Let's open up for public comment.
This is the moderator. I have opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the question mark icon at the bottom of your screen. Enter "I would like to make a comment" in the field and send it to all panelists. I will pause a moment to allow time for individuals to submit their requests. President Lippy, at this time, we've not received any requests for public comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
It is closed.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and that is to direct the motion for change in the tech pharmacist ratio to the appropriate committee. All those in favor, well, I'm not going to do that. I'll take a roll call.
Hi, Greg. Was there a comment by Danny Martinez? I'm sorry, I thought I saw that popped up.
Did you?
Sorry if I'm mistaken.
Well, maybe. Moderator, was there?
There was not at the time we closed it. There is one in there now. If you'd like me to go ahead and take it.
Sure, let's go ahead.
Okay, we have a request for comment by Joe Gracella. Joe, I have unmuted your microphone. You will have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I would also like to add to this that compounding pharmacies need to have the tech ratio also looked at, because it's very hard to do it with 2-to-1 ratio. The typical pharmacy does get medications from a manufacturer, but we actually have to compound them and fill the prescription. So a 2-to-1 ratio is very, very tight. So if that can be added to that discussion, it'd be great. I also had earlier comments, but for some reason I was not called on. If I could speak on that, I would be appreciated.
Okay, let's deal with this one first.
Okay, thank you.
First, let's see if there's any other comments. Not seeing any.
There's no others.
Okay, let's close up the line. Okay, is there any desire to change the motion to include the compounding pharmacy?
That's fine.
Okay. And how about you, Jig? You good with that?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. I think technically I have to get public comment again. So let's open it up.
This is the moderator. I've opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a comment, the instructions are on your screen. Click on the Q&A symbol at the bottom of your screen and enter "I would like to make a comment" or "I would like to make a public comment" and submit it to all panelists.
Okay, and this is a comment with regard to the change in the motion.
We've received a request for public comment from Danny Abifadel again.
Okay.
Danny, I've unmuted your microphone. You will have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I failed to add it, and Joe did make a point. You know, I do own a compounding pharmacy, so my specific request was for compounding pharmacies to have that specific ratio. If you wanted to, guys, go ahead and apply it to retail count and fill thing, that's fine too. But my specific request was for compounding pharmacies where the labor is quite more intensive and the time to compound is much more tedious.
Okay, well, as it stands right now, the motion will include both. So
I appreciate
that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments about this?
Seeing none at this time.
Let's close it up.
The panel is closed.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. It's time to vote. And we'll start with Maria Serpa.
Yes.
Thank you. Ryan Brook.
Yes.
Thank you. Cheryl Butler.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Okay, Jig Patel.
Yes.
Sung Oh. I know it's obvious, but you still have to answer. Sung?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Jason?
Weiss, yes.
Thank you. Albert Wong?
Yes.
Thank you. Ricardo Sanchez?
Yes.
Thank you. Debbie Veal? Debbie, are you here? If you are, unmute. Okay.
President Lippy, it looks as though we've lost Vice President Veal at this time.
Yeah, we're going to be losing her periodically through the day, so
Okay.
I won't be concerned about that. Okay, and I vote yes, so the motion passes. Okay, now we had a request by Joe Grisella because of the fact that I guess he missed the public comment on items not on the agenda.
I'm
So-
sorry. I'm doing a mic check again. I don't know why I show that I'm unmuted, but can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know what's happening here, but yes, I voted yes unless it's too late.
Well, okay, I'll take it under advisement.
Okay.
Okay,
Not that it's necessary.
right. Thank you. Okay, like I said, because of what Joe said, I want to make sure everybody has a chance to put in their comments. So let's open it up again for public comment for items not on the agenda. Joe, go ahead. If anybody else has something, they can do it too.
This is the moderator. I've opened the Q&A panel. Instructions for submitting a request for public comment are on your screen, and I will pause a moment to allow time for submission.
Remember to unmute. Oh, you're going to do it, moderator. Well, Joe asked for it, so Joe, where are you? Nothing?
At this time, we have no
Okay.
requests.
Let's close it up.
The panel is closed.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we'll go on to agenda item 3. The next item is the approval of the July 29 to July 30, 2020 board meeting minutes. Members, are there any comments on the minutes? I will mention beforehand, I'm going to call your name, but I'm going to mention that there are some typos that I recognize, but they weren't substantive, so I'm not going to mention anything about them. So let's go ahead on comments. I'll start with Debbie Veal. See if your microphone's working.
No comment.
Okay. How about Ricardo Sanchez?
Yeah, no comment.
Okay. Albert Wong?
Yes, I have a comment. I would like to amend it, the minute that I want to make myself clear that I do not condone the breaking the regulation by student taking a test, sharing the information. When I make that comment, it's only when I said that it's a one test. When there's one test, they can share anything afterward, it doesn't matter. But when there's two tests, well, that's why I say I would, like to see it have one test, then it's irrelevant whether they share or not. I want to make myself clear on that.
Mr. President,
Yes.
this is your council, Noreen Marks. I just want to be clear
Yes.
that the minutes are to simply reflect the discussion, and Dr. Wong can make other comments as appropriate, but if that is an appropriate reflection of what the conversation was, then we don't need to recast the minutes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
It's okay. I just want to make myself clear. That's all.
That's fine. Thank you, Albert. How about Sung Oh?
I'm good.
Okay. Ryan Brooks?
I'm good here.
Thank you. Jason Wise?
Weiss, no comment.
Thank you. Jig Patel?
No comment. All good. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheryl Butler?
Comment.
Okay. Maria Serpa?
No comments.
Okay. Then I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve. This is Debbie Veal. I'll
Okay.
second. This is Debbie.
Okay.
This is
Yeah, I heard
Debbie
Ryan
Allen,
first.
second.
Ryan motion. Okay. Open it up for public comment.
This is the moderator. I've opened the Q&A panel for public comment. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Enter "I would like to make a comment" in the box and submit it to all panelists. I will pause a moment to allow time for submission. At this time, I received no requests.
Okay, let's close it up.
The panel is closed.
Okay, with a motion and a second on the floor, we can now vote. We'll start with Sung Oh.
I support.
Thank you. Debbie Veal.
Yes.
Thank you. Maria Serpa.
Yes.
Thank you. Ricardo Sanchez. Ricardo? I hear noise, but I don't hear your voice. Moderator, do you know what that's all about?
The noise is coming from a separate open mic. Ricardo has not unmuted his microphone yet.
Okay. Ricardo, are you unmuted now? I'll move on. Jason Weiss.
This is Jason. I did not attend last meeting. I will abstain.
Very good. Thank you. Ryan Brooks.
Yes.
Thank you. Jig Patel.
Yes.
Thank you. Cheryl Butler.
Yes.
Thank you. Albert Wong.
Yes.
Thank you. And I vote yes, so the motion passes. Okay. The next item for discussion consideration is approval of the board provided training program pursuant to Business and Profession Code section 4052.02B and 4052.03B3. These are related to furnishing HIV pre-exposure and post-exposure prophylaxis. I will now turn the meeting over to Debbie Veal to lead the discussion on the item, as well as agenda item number 5. Our discussion and consideration for board approval of PrEP and PEP medications meeting the same clinical eligibility recommendations provided in the CDC guidelines. That is item 5. Okay, Debbie, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just as background and as a reminder, per our regulation, a training program must either be approved by the board or by a provider accredited by an approved accrediting organization such as ACPE or CPHA. We are aware that we have a few programs that have been developed and approved by ACPE or CPHA, and so today we're discussing the program that the board has developed in association with or collaboration with some experts. We've been working on this program for the last couple of months to try to get it in place as an alternative training method. And it's to satisfy the requirements of CCR section 1747. Ultimately, upon approval of the board, the training program will be finalized and a competency assessment and post-training survey will be developed. Once finalized, the training program will be recorded and made available at the board website at no cost to licensees. The training programs that are currently available to licensees, we have a mix out there. Some are at no charge and some do charge. The experts involved in the development of this particular training program include Philip Peters, MD, Office of AIDS Medical Director, Marissa Ramos, PhD, Office of AIDS Division Chief, Kirsten B. Bologno, PharmD, AAHIVP, which is an HIV pharmacist, and James Gaspar, PharmD, DCPP, Psychiatric and Substance Abuse Disorder Pharmacist. During this meeting, we will have an opportunity to hear a brief overview of the training, and I actually have reviewed the training materials, and I found them excellent, honestly. Not only did they include the modules that are in your board packet, but they also included 2 case studies, which I thought did a great job of bringing home the training to the person going through the program. Attached is in your materials is a brief discussion and overview of the training program. I believe we do have 1 or 2 of the folks that developed the training program with us that are here to give us an overview. So moderator, and maybe Anne can also add to this. I think it's James Gaspar and Kirsten Bologno.
Yes, I'm here. I'm now unmuted. This is Kirsten Bologno. Thank you.
Okay. Is it,
this is the moderator. I've also unmuted James Gasper.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Great.
Yes, James, I don't know if you guys would like to just give a brief overview of the training, maybe just briefly the steps you took, and then open it up for any questions that the other board members might have.
Yeah, I'll do the intro. Kirsten did all the hard work on this, so I'll turn it over to her in a second. But we got together last November and actually started working on this with the PA, ETC, CDPH, and the Department of Healthcare Services. And I think it's based on, materials that have already been in use and put together previously for academic detailing. So this isn't new to have this type of information pulled together, but I think we took guidance from the regulations, put together the different modules to cover the content and to meet the letter of the regulations, as you mentioned, section 1747. And I'm really happy with the outcome. We've had monthly meetings. We've sent it out for expert review. There's been many revisions and a lot of work has gone into this, and we're happy to present it to the board. And I'll pass it over to Kirsten to talk about the content.
Thank you, James. So the content is designed to be modular. It does meet the requirements for a 90-minute continuing education program. We have an intent, though, to be able to allow participants to go through each module at their own pace to complete them, and they'll get the certificate when they complete the full 90 minutes. We didn't want to have people just scrolling through a 90-minute and not be engaged. So our goal is to engage the learners and be able to break it up in a modular format. The modules are outlined in the materials that you have, where we start with an introduction that overall puts the role of prevention and pharmacists in prevention within the full context of the HIV care continuum. So reminding pharmacists that, you know, they've been in the role of HIV care and prevention, primarily through treatment as prevention. But now we have a new prevention tool in pharmacies. The other piece that the introduction offers is a reminder that pharmacists do play a role and have the skills in other prevention issues for our communities, including birth control, naloxone, sterile syringes. And so all of those same skills are consistent with the skills needed for PrEP and PEP furnishing and dispensing. We then move to some of the basics of the pharmacology and the data that supports pre-exposure prophylaxis and then post-exposure prophylaxis. So those are two separate modules that really help people understand what are the medicines, what's the evidence for the medicines, what are common side effects and counseling issues around the medicines being used for PrEP and PEP. We then do an overview of the legal requirements for furnishing these medicines in California. We offer an overview of HIV testing, as a HIV negative test is required prior to furnishing PrEP. We do an overview for people being able to effectively furnish and access patient financial prescription benefits programs or copay programs to be able to offer easy access to patients requesting this. And then finally, we try to pull it all together in the cases that were described. We have a PrEP case and a PEP case. And what that allows us as an opportunity to do is not just do the nuts and bolts of what it is and what medicines they are, but to also bring in some of the counseling techniques and understanding some of the opportunities to build your counseling skills in direct patient care. The linkage to care is a very important part of both the legislation as well as the care, and that is reinforced throughout these modules, that the role of pharmacists are not just to furnish the medicines, but to also ensure that patients are linked to care for ongoing prescriptions, laboratory assessment, and management. I think that is my brief overview. I will happily take questions or comments.
Thank you. That was very good. Moderator, do you want to open up the line for any questions? Or actually, before we do that, are there any questions from the other board members?
Hi, this is I have some questions about one thing. About the testing, can you add a little more clarification if it at-home testing is allowed or acceptable for this?
You know, I mean, if people are, you know, if patients are able to bring in documentation of a test result that demonstrates a negative HIV test, it could be through, you know, done either at the pharmacy or through community-based organizations, or potentially home testing. The home testing makes it a bit tougher to document that, but that's actually, we can clarify that in the module for sure. James, I don't know if you have other comments about that.
I think any negative test result that can be somehow verified is probably adequate. It's probably more up to to the statutory requirement, which I think is met by a negative test result, whatever that may be. There could be a variety of sources.
And this is Debbie. I was just going to add, I think the statute purposefully left it kind of, like James said, any negative that can be verified, just because we don't know what will change in the future, and we don't want to have to come back and and rechange it. But I thought it was adequately addressed in the presentation. But if you guys want to go back and just double check and make sure that it's clear that it has to be verifiable, I think that was clear in the in the course.
The other thing I think I do want to say that was a key part of our module is we also include a very robust resources page, because the development of these skills and this competency requires sort of repetition and practice, and like many of the skills that we use. And so we do have a general resources page that offers the learners to be able to access expert consultation through the National Clinicians Consultation Service, through our Pacific AIDS Education and Training Services, as well as national guidelines.
Are there any other board questions? So not hearing any, moderator, could you open it up to the public?
This is the moderator. The Q&A panel has been open. If you'd like to make a comment, please click on the Q&A icon at the bottom right corner of your screen. In the ask field, please enter, "I would like to make a public comment," and submit that to all panelists. We are sharing instructions on the screen. I will wait a few moments to see if we receive any requests. At this time, we've not received any requests for public comment.
Thank you. So it is a recommendation of the board staff to approve this training program. And hearing no questions, I would like to make a motion that will need to be seconded. I would like to motion that we approve the proposed board-provided training program pursuant to Business and Profession Code Section 4052.02B, 4052.03B3, related to the furnishing of HIV pre-exposure PrEP and post-exposure PEP prophylaxis. Do I have a second?
Okay, I second. This is Cheryl Butler, and I second.
Thank you, Cheryl. Mr. President, do you want to
Now that you've made a motion, now that you made a motion, we need public comment on the motion. So, moderator, please open the lines.
The Q&A panel has been opened. We are displaying instructions on the screen. I will pause a few moments to allow time for submission of requests. We've received a public comment request from Danny Martinez. Danny, I have unmuted your microphone and you will have 2 minutes.
Hi, this is Danny Martinez with CPHA. I actually don't have a comment. I just wanted to let the board know that Dr. Maria Lopez is on the webinar trying to submit for a comment and cannot do so right now. So I don't know, moderator or whoever needs to, Dr. Maria Lopez is trying to make a comment on this. I don't know if you need to open her mic or how that works.
Thank you, Danny. Moderator?
I will open her mic. Just a moment. Maria Lopez. Maria Lopez, I've unmuted your microphone.
Hi, thank you. I am Maria Lopez, a practicing community pharmacist in PrEP and a consultant for the Capacity for Building Assistance here in the Western region. I did submit comments to Dr. Peters and I joined later. So I have a comment, I guess more of a question, because I did hear about the testing. I did confirm with the CDC that based on the current CDC guidelines, the CDC guidelines recommend that prescribers order all laboratory, not all laboratory tests, but specifically hepatitis B serology to confirm the Hep B serology, the HIV test, the serum creatinine, and STI test, that those are ordered prior to prescribing PrEP. And at this time, the CDC doesn't have further guidance on changing those. They're not willing to back out of amending that guidance at the moment. So I just wanted to make that comment because I know that the training, I brought it up to Dr. Peters, although we didn't, I just saw this, the slides this week, so didn't have much time to talk with Dr. Peters about it. But maybe Dr. Peters, you could comment on that. And then to the question about the, before I pass on the mic, the question about the home testing. The guidelines are clear that the testing should not be a test that the patient but that the provider, the prescriber is verifying that, and it should be documented in the medical record. So just a question about home testing, it does need to be verified. And I think that the regulation, particularly with the HIV test, does make that clear, but doesn't with the other test. And I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Are there any other comments?
At this time, we've received no other requests.
Okay, let's close it up.
The panel is closed.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Time to vote. And that's to approve the training program. So let's start with Cheryl Butler. Remember to unmute.
Yes.
Thank you. Jig Patel.
Yes.
Okay. Who's
President Libby? Yeah, this is the moderator. Mr. Brooks, you have a lot of background noise. So if you could please keep your mic muted until it's time for you to respond. Thank you.
Okay, Jason Weiss.
Weiss, aye.
Yes, thank you. Sung Ho.
Yes.
Thank you. Maria Serpa.
Yes.
Thank you. Albert Wong.
Yes.
Thank you. Debbie Veal.
Yes.
Thank you. Ricardo Sanchez. Ricardo, are you unmuted? I'll go on to Ryan Brooks. Ryan Brooks?
Yes.
Thank you. Ricardo, are you there?
President Lippy, it looks as though Ricardo has dropped off of the call. He's in the attendee panel, so I'm putting him back up.
He's having
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I just got accepted back on. I was having some technical difficulties here. I got knocked off. So my vote is yes. And also on the minutes, it was yes. I just was having a hard time communicating with you guys.
Okay, thank you, Ricardo. And I vote yes, so the motion passes. Debbie, did you want to do a motion on item 5?
So let me go through item 5 now, and then yes, I will have a motion on that too. So
Okay.
item 5 is in regards to some new medications that have come out for PEP and PrEP exposure. And BPC section 405.202 defines pre-exposure prophylaxis as a fixed dose combination of tenofovir and imitriptyline or another drug or drug combination determined by the board to meet the same clinical eligibility recommendations provided in CDC guidelines. Similarly, 405.2.01b3 includes a definition for post-exposure prophylaxis of another drug or drug combination determined by the board to meet the same clinical eligibility recommendations provided by CDC guidelines. So there are two therapies that we would like to recommend to be added. And one is a new drug called Descovy, which is tenofovir, emtricitabine, those two medications combined. And then also a new drug called Biktarvy, which is bictegravir, the emtricitabine, and the tenofovir combination. And they should be appropriate for inclusion under the authority of the pharmacist to provide PrEP and PEP, consistent with the authority from SC 159. These therapies were recommended by experts in the field and evaluated by Dr. Philip Peters of the Office of AIDS. In your material is a memo from Dr. Peters that indicates that these medications would be appropriate to be added. And as such, the board staff is recommending the approval of these two drug therapies since they are consistent with the analysis and recommendations offered by the Office of AIDS. So let me first see if there's any comments by other board members and then the public. And if we're good, then I do have a motion. So first, let me open up to the other board members. If you have any thoughts or comments in regards to adding or not these two medications to the PEP and PrEP formula. All right, since it sounds like the board members do not have any comments, moderator, could you please open up the Q&A to see if the public has any comments?
This is the moderator. I've opened the Q&A panel for public comment. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon at the bottom right corner of your screen. In the Ask field, enter "I would like to make a comment" and submit that to all panelists. I will now pause for a few moments to allow time for submission of requests. At this time, we have not received any submissions.
Okay, thank you very much.
The panel is closed.
Then, thank you very much. As such, then I'm going to make a motion. And I think what I'm going to do is combine the motion so that we can make it one motion for both medications, unless Noreen, you think that we should make it one motion for each BPC code. Is it okay if I combine them, or is it do I need to do it one for each code?
I think it's more clear if you do separate motions.
Okay, then I will do as you suggest. Clarity is always a priority. So my first motion is to approve the Descovy or the tenofovir 25 milligrams with the emtricitabine 200 milligrams is a drug combination that can be initiated and furnished for pre-exposure or PrEP by a pharmacist pursuant to the provisions of BPC 405.2.02. Do I have someone to second that motion?
I'll go ahead and second it, Ricardo.
Thank you, Ricardo. Greg, will you handle moving the motion through?
I will do that. Okay. But we have to have public comment first. So let's open up the lines for public comment on the motion.
This is the moderator. I've opened the Q&A panel for public comment. If you'd like to make a public comment, please follow the instructions on your screen. I will now pause a few moments to allow time for submission of requests.
Okay, I think we can close it.
Panel is closed.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. So I'll take the roll call. Start with Jason Weiss.
Weiss, yes.
Thank you. Jig Patel.
Yes.
Thank you. Albert Wong.
Yes.
Thank you. Maria Serpa.
Yes.
Thank you. Ricardo Sanchez.
Yes.
Thank you. Brian Brooks.
Yes.
Thank you. Debbie Veal.
Yes.
Thank you. Sung Oh.
Yes.
Thank you. Cheryl Butler.
Yes.
Thank you. I vote yes. Motion passes. Okay, Debbie, you want to take up the second one?
Yes, please. So the second motion is to approve the Biktarvy combination of Bictegravir, 50 milligrams, Imotrisabine, 200 milligrams, and Tenofovir, 25 milligrams, as a drug combination that can be initiated and furnished for post-exposure prophylaxis, PEP, by a pharmacist pursuant to the provisions of BPC 4052.03. Can I please have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay, let's, do we have any other member comments? Okay, let's open up for public comment on the motion.
This is the moderator. I've opened the Q&A panel for public comment. Please click on the Q&A icon at the bottom right corner of your screen and type "I would like to make a comment" in the Ask field, submitting that to all panelists. I will now pause for a few moments to allow time for submission of requests. Seeing no requests for public comment, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please.
Panel is closed.
Okay, it's now time to vote. So I will begin with Sung Oh.
Yes.
Thank you. Debbie Veal.
Yes.
Thank you. Maria Serpa.
Yes.
Thank you. Ricardo Sanchez.
Yes.
Thank you. Jason Weiss.
Yes.
Thank you. Brian Brooks.
Yes.
Thank you. Jig Patel.
Yes.
Thank you. Cheryl Butler.
Yes.
Thank you. Albert Wong.
Yes.
Thank you. I vote yes. Motion passes. Okay, that concludes item 5 on the agenda. Now we're going to item 6. Our next item for discussion and action is readoption of emergency regulation Title 16, California Code of Regulations, Section 1747, related to prep and PEP furnishing. As you may recall, the board adopted emergency regulations to establish the requirements for training programs as required in SB 159. These regulations became effective on April 30th, 2020, and are set to expire on October 28th, 2020. Regrettably, the formal rulemaking package is currently undergoing pre-notice review. As the permanent rulemaking will not be finalized by the expiration of the emergency rulemaking, staff recommends that we readopt the emergency regulation to ensure that the requirements remain in place. So included in the meeting materials is the emergency regulation language. Members, are there any comments on the staff's recommendation? Please remember to unmute.
Hey, Greg, I don't have any comments other than I would like to offer up a motion.
Okay, let's go with the motion and then I'll take public comment.
Okay, I would like to make the motion to readopt the emergency regulation language approved by OAL on April 30th, 2020, and delegate to the executive officer the authority to make technical or non-substantive changes as may be required by control agencies to complete the readoption process.
Very good. Thank you. Do we have a second?
This is Cheryl.
I'm sorry, there were two voices. Who did the second?
With Cheryl Butler.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Are there any other member comments at this point? Okay, being none, let's open up for public comment on the motion.
This is the moderator. I've opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon at the bottom right corner of your screen. In the Ask field, enter "I would like to make a comment" and submit that to all panelists. We are displaying instructions for your privilege, and I will pause a few moments to allow time for submission of requests. President Lippy, we have received a request for comment from Danny Martinez.
Okay, go ahead.
Danny, you are now unmuted and we'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Danny Martinez with CPHA. Fully support the readoption of this emergency regulation. I did have a quick question. My understanding is that per the government code 11346.1 subsection H, emergency readoptions are allowed, but only 2 are permitted, and they're both 90 days each. Given that information, is the board confident that the delays with the regular rulemaking process will have completed their review by the time both of these readoptions could have occurred?
I'm going to turn that over to counsel that is involved in the regulations. Do we have somebody?
Hi, this is Danny Rogers, Regulatory Counsel. I'm hopeful that we will be moving the package along shortly. I'm also hopeful that we will have it submitted, hopefully before the 90 days. But we do have a second opportunity to readopt. We also have the potential for an extension that was granted by the governor in the waiver process as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Danny. And thank you, Danny. Okay, so we have more comments?
At this time, I do not see any additional requests for comment.
Okay, let's close it up.
The panel is closed.
Okay, and it's time to vote. So I'll begin with Ricardo Sanchez.
Yes.
Thank you. Debbie Veal.
Yes.
Thank you. Albert Wong.
Yes.
Thank you. Sung Oh.
Yes.
Thank you. Jig Patel.
Yes.
Thank you. Brian Brooks.
Yes.
Thank you. Cheryl Butler.
Yes.
Thank you. Maria Serpa.
Yes.
Thank you. Jason Weiss.
Yes.
Thank you. And I am a yes. So the motion passes. Okay, moving on to agenda item 7A. Members, as included in the meeting materials, we'll now consider the proposed regulations to add Title 16 CCR Section 1717.5 related to automatic refills. Meeting materials include several items, including comments received during the comment period, a brief summary of complaints received, summaries of the comments received with recommendations, staff recommended modified text, and the initial proposed text released for the 45-day comment period. Members, for our consideration today, we can adopt the regulation as noticed or amend the regulation to address any concerns and notice the regulation for an additional 15-day comment period. I trust members have taken the opportunity to review all of the meeting material.
Did everybody else lose Greg?
Yes, it looks like his microphone muted.
Okay. I haven't been having so many mute problems myself. I thought it was.
Well, my problem was a fat hand on the wrong place. Okay, so the proposed modified language, as well as the provisions regarding digital signatures and suggested attributes of acceptable digital signatures. I want to ensure that everyone received and considered the supplemental materials provided and posted that include comments from Dr. Gregory Doe, System-Wide Chief of Pharmacy Services for the California Correctional Healthcare Services. With that understanding, I will now open the discussion for members. I'll do this with a roll call. Okay. So I will now start with Maria Serpa. You have comments?
No comments.
Okay. Thank you. Ryan Brooks.
No comments.
Thank you. Cheryl Butler.
No comments. I'm pleased with the proposed text.
Thank you. Jake Patel.
No comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Sung Oh.
The only comment I have is that there was a comment submitted by a gentleman that asked about medication synchronization program, if this is included or not. And I think we just need to make that clear that any program that refills a prescription automatically is included in this regulation. So just wanted to, I just want to make that should be included in some ways or clarified.
Well,
maybe Greg, that when we do the FAQs, that's a good point, that be something that the staff puts in the FAQs.
I agree, because otherwise, you know, if we start changing it, then we have to go out for another comment period. So if you're okay with it in the FAQ, I think we'll move on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. As long as we can interpret that it does include it, because on a board staff comment it did say that they were not sure. So I just want to make sure. I think we can add, as long as include that within the program. I think that's totally cool.
Okay, thank you. Jason Weiss.
No comments.
Thank you. Albert Wong.
No comment.
Thank you. Ricardo Sanchez.
No comment.
Thank you. Debbie Veal.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not going to make this as easy. I have one comment and one kind of clarification. Let me do the clarification first, and that's in the very last item B. It says a licensed health facility as defined in Health and Safety Section 1250. So I was thinking that a licensed health facility, that would be I mean, specifically that, uh, that specific licensed health facility, or are we saying that all licensed health facilities as defined in health and safety codes? And I just want to make sure, because I think one of the things that we were trying to do is to make sure that like long-term care didn't have to constantly, you know, there's kind of an auto refill process and long-term care process. And so I just want to make sure that a licensed health facility as defined in health and safety code is not just that, because I think that's one entity that within that, but I might be totally misunderstanding. Noreen, can you maybe clarify, or Ann, can you clarify that for me? I just want to make sure that we're hitting the intent.
Okay, Ann or Noreen?
Yeah, I actually I would recommend that Danny respond.
Hey,
She's
Danny,
the
right.
board's regulation attorney.
Regulation. Okay, Danny?
Hi there. Good morning again. It's Danny Rogers, Regulations Counsel. So under the definition set forth in the licensed healthcare facility would refer to, and I'm reading from the statute itself, a facility, place, or building that's organized, maintained, or operated for the diagnosis, care, prevention, and treatment of human illness, physical or mental, including convalescence and rehabilitation, and including care during and after pregnancy, or for any one or more of these purposes, for one or more persons to which persons are admitted for a 24-hour stay or longer. And the statute enumerates several types of facilities that would fit that definition. One is a general acute care hospital, an acute psychiatric hospital, a skilled nursing facility, an intermediate care facility, an intermediate facility / developmentally disabled facilitative facility, a special hospital, and an intermediate care facility, again, a developmentally disabled facility, et cetera. So there are several categories within licensed care facility that would be encompassed by that exemption.
Danny, thank you very much. My concern was that it was only a hospital, acute care hospital, but you just clarified that and made sure that it was skilled and intermediate skilled. So that's fantastic. That's exactly what I think the intent was. And that was probably more my ignorance than anything, but I appreciate the filling it in. And then my other concern is
Thank you, Danny.
thank you. My other concern is under A12. I mean, for the most part, I like the proposed modified text, but A12, it says before a patient enrolls, the pharmacy shall provide a written or electronic notice. My concern is, I know a lot of times these notices are provided electronically by to someone's email or to their phone. And
right.
so I guess I'm thinking, yeah, right, a text. So I guess what I'm thinking is, I'm not sure the word before is the right word, because you might, the notice will be sent. I agree 100%, the notice needs to be provided. But I just want to make sure we're not making it too cumbersome, because if they have to look and read at that notice before it can happen, then that's going to potentially delay the activation of the automatic refill program. I am actually a huge proponent in my job with managed care. Automatic refill is a huge plus. It's proven to be a plus. It's proven to waste actually decreases with these programs. But I understand we've had a lot of consumers, relatively, I guess 75 since 2014. But consumers are concerned, so we need to do something. So I'm not trying to sideways this. I just think a different word than before, because I think by having before, that means you have to get it to them, they have to read it. So that means then the next time they're enrolled, and I want them to be enrolled at, I want one sales pitch basically, versus they're having to be, do you want to do it, Mrs. Veal? Okay, I'm going to send this to you. When you come back next time, then we'll enroll you. I'd rather, do you want to do this, Mrs. Veal? Okay, great. I'm sending you some information about the program. So once again, my focus is that word before, and I would love to hear what the other board members have to say, because maybe I'm fascinating, getting myself all tied up in my undies on one word, and I'm overthinking it, but I'm worried about that one word.
Well,
So I'll shut up for a minute. And
it was dealt with in the comments, if you noticed, comments and the staff responses.
It was, well, I think the staff added before. That's a word that the staff added. And so that was why, that's probably the one word and all the things that the staff did that I'm just a little bit worried with the staff adding the word before.
Okay.
Because you notice, like, what it said before was when a patient enrolls, and the staff changed it to before a patient enrolls. And I guess maybe what I'm saying is that's the one word I wish the staff would have left it as when.
Okay. Let's hear from others. I think because of this, I'm going to hear from others by continued roll call. So let's go on. Actually, I heard from everybody else as far as no comments. I'll go back with regard to the item that you're bringing up. So let's go to Maria on this. Maria, do you have a comment on it?
I have no additional comments.
Okay. Ryan Brooks, any additional comment related to Debbie's concern?
No.
Okay. Cheryl Butler,
I feel like I thought the whole premise here was to make sure that the patient did want the automatic refill. So it seems like before is something that needs to be there, because the problem is all these prescriptions being filled, and the doctor changed the medication or things happen. So it seemed like before is important in that statement.
okay, thank you. Jig Patel,
No comments.
okay. Sung Oh,
I actually think that before is not confusing, and it's actually just makes sense to me. I agree with Cheryl. I think it just means that before you get patient to enroll into the program, they are aware of what the program entails. Then after that, I don't think it has to be the next time. I think it just means that then they can be enrolled into a program and get medications automatically. So.
Well, so can I just comment? So it says before a patient enrolls, the pharmacy shall provide a written or electronic notice. So I'm just concerned that if you're providing electronically, that they might not have it instantaneously, and so then before does delay enrollment. I agree with what you guys are saying. We've heard from the public, but I just want to make sure we're not making this too hard.
But like if a patient is at the pharmacy, we can just give them a notice with a program, and they just sign it then, and that should be sufficient, and that shouldn't interfere with it.
But if you're giving it electronically, are they going to want to read it before they sign? Maybe not. I mean, once again, I might be overthinking this. So, if I am, I am. So
you might be. Okay. Let's go on to Jason Weiss. Any comment?
Hi, I think my thoughts on this align with board member O.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Albert Wong?
Yeah, I agree with what Cheryl said.
Okay, thank you. Ricardo Sanchez?
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay, and I have no comment, so time to open up for public comment.
This is the moderator. I have opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the icon at the bottom of your right corner screen where it says QA with a question mark. Then you can enter, I would like to make a comment in the ask field and submit that to all panelists. I will now pause for a moment to allow time for submission of comments. We have received a request for comment from an individual by the name of Gregory Doe.
Okay.
Gregory, I have now unmuted your microphone and you will have 2 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Greg Doe, and I am the Chief Pharmacy Services for the California Correctional Healthcare Services. We provide care to approximately 100,000 inmates of the state prison system. On behalf of the department, I want to sincerely thank the board for considering our request for exemption to the auto refill requirements proposed under California Code of Regulations, Section 1717.5b, and the opportunity to provide public comment here today in support of our exemption request. The federal receivership policies and procedures to enhance continuity of care were developed and approved by the courts, and those include a system to provide automatic refills to inmates on chronic care medications that do not depend on the patient placing those refill requests. While patients always have the right to refuse their medications, have the ability to request medications not be included in the auto refill process. The system has worked well to enhance continuity in a system which does not offer any electronic means for the patient to contact the pharmacy, as inmates do not have regular access to telephones or computers. This has avoided the potential for gaps in therapy that would otherwise occur. As such, I would like to thank the board for consideration of the additional exemption language as proposed, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Dr. Doe.
Thank you.
Does anybody have questions for Dr. Doe?
I guess my only question is, Dr. Doe, you're not one of those licensed healthcare facilities that are already exempted. Is that correct?
That's correct for the majority of our patients.
Right, but his request is being considered right now.
We have received another request for comment from an individual by the name of Lindsay Gullahorn. And Lindsay, Lindsay, I have you in here twice on 2 different devices. I want to check your mic on this one. Can you speak so we can see if we can hear you?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. You'll have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Great.
Oh, let's try the other device. We just lost her. Lindsay, how about now?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. Having technical issues. Good morning, President Lippy and board members. This is Lindsay Gullahorn. I represent the California Retailers Association and the National Association of Chain Drugstores. We have reviewed staff's recommended changes to the automatic refill regulations, and first want to say thank you. We do appreciate some of those changes, which we think will make the regulations more workable. First, we support striking the requirement to list all of the medications that are included in an automated refill program, and the changes that clarify that consent and certain notifications can occur electronically. So first, just thank you very much for those changes and for reviewing our comments and taking them into consideration. We do have a couple of remaining concerns with the current draft of the regulations. First, new language in section A6 that requires a pharmacy to notify a patient to confirm disenrollment in an automatic refill program. We believe providing a confirmation to patients upon disenrollment is an extra unnecessary step. I believe many of our members don't currently have the systems in place to provide such a confirmation. So keeping documentation as the previous draft of the regulations required should suffice as confirmation. In addition, patients are aware of their withdrawal from auto refill when they make a request, so providing additional confirmation is unnecessary. We also have concerns with section A7. The new language requires a pharmacy to provide a full refund to the patient for any refill if the pharmacy was notified that the patient did not want the refill, regardless of the reason, or if the pharmacy had been notified of disenrollment from the program before dispensing the prescription. The new language replaces and with or, which we believe will further open up avenues for abuse of this provision and allow patients to request a refund even if the medication wasn't filled inappropriately, particularly in instances when patients don't clearly indicate that they want to disenroll. We also believe this will place an additional financial burden on pharmacies. Again, we want to thank you for your consideration of our comments. We are here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay.
We've received another request from Mark Johnston, sorry. And Mark, your mic is unmuted and you have 2 minutes.
My name is Mark Johnston. I'm currently a Senior Director of Regulatory Affairs for CVS Health. Many board members know me as being elected to NABP's Executive Committee twice, a position I held while serving as the Executive Director for the Idaho Board of Pharmacy. I implore the board to make a decision based on scientific data and not upon a few anecdotes. The data that are provided in my written comments from scientific publications study tens of thousands of auto refilled prescriptions and prove that auto refill programs increase patient adherence to medication and decrease medication waste. I believe that adherence and access are two important components of public safety that a board can and should promote. These pending rules include many components that appear to exist merely to discourage the use of auto refill programs. In 2017, when these pending regulations were drafted, only 6 of the current board members were appointed, and the board had a different executive director. I was in attendance for the former board president's emotional charge to regulate auto refill programs based upon a miscommunication between her mother and her mother's pharmacy. Only 2 other states regulate auto refill programs, and neither overregulate like this proposal. Additionally, NABP's Model Act and rules do not regulate auto refill programs. The board's meeting materials indicate that you have 2 choices, approve or modify, but I contend that you can abandon or at least send this matter back to committee. Please reconsider. Have auto refill programs been perfect? No, but auto refill programs have evolved since the board first initiated this effort. For example, the board received complaints involving the auto refilling of discontinued medication, but with the advent of the ability of a prescriber to discontinue a medication via electronic prescribing, pharmacies no longer have to rely on absent verbal communication to remove a drug from auto refill status. These pending rules are already outdated today, and I truly believe that their enactment will decrease public safety, not increase it. Auto refill programs are not some clandestine plan to increase script count. They are proven to increase patient access, which increases public safety. They are proven to decrease pharmaceutical waste, not increase it. Don't do this. Alternatively, I believe that your public education committee should be promoting the use of auto refill programs. Thank you for the opportunity to comment today.
Thank you, Mark.
President Lippy, we have one more request for comment from an individual by the name of Robert Stein.
Okay.
Robert, I have unmuted your microphone and you will have 2 minutes.
Good morning, board. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this. With regard to A2, I think the whole intent is informed consent of the patient, in other words, to enroll in this program. So I believe that before a patient enrolls is an appropriate phrase to be left in there. My second question or comment has to do with the refunding of patients on A7. Why would a patient be charged for a medication they don't want and presumably would never have been picked up? So I'm not sure about that. I do know when adjudication takes place during the filling of the prescription, a third-party payer typically is charged at that point. But wouldn't standard operating procedures and avoiding false claims require a pharmacy to return to stock and reverse any charges for patients for medications that the patient never actually picked up? Thanks.
Thank you, Robert.
President Lippy, at this time, we have not received any additional requests for comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
The panel is closed.
I think for Mr. Stein's comments, I believe it's for the mail orders where you just get shipped with a credit card on file. That's probably what the situation that they're trying to clarify.
I just would just say that I appreciate what was it Professor Stein just commented on, and I agree with what he had to say.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. Jig Patel?
President Lippy, I have a comment to make. I thought a little bit more about the process, how what a consumer goes through when they pick up a prescription and how and when they're enrolled. What Debbie was making, what the comment she was making about removing before and leaving when, I feel that it's important. And it's the reason is the auto enrollment can happen at multiple stages, and notifying the patient, it's difficult before the interaction. So I feel that before should be removed, and we should put just leave it at when, as it was before.
Okay, thank you, Jig.
Thank you.
Jason Weiss, any comment related to the comments made by public or by other members? Jason, are you unmuted?
Sorry about that. No
That's
additional
okay.
comments at this time.
Thank you. Okay, Sung, you already made a comment. Do you want to make another?
Oh, I'm sorry. I also want to add, can we somehow include Dr. Doe's concerns and follow? I'm not sure if we're going to do that next or not, but
No, his concerns are being dealt with outside of this. So
okay,
it's
that's
not
fine.
part of it. Okay, thank you. Okay, Maria Serpa.
I have no additional comments to add than what's been stated.
Thank you. Albert Wong.
No comment.
Thank you. Ricardo Sanchez.
No comment.
Okay, Ryan Brooks.
No comments.
Okay, Debbie Veal, anything more?
No, other than I just want to clarify what you just told Dr. Ong. So we are dealing with the prison situation, but it's being handled outside of this proposed.
Correct, correct. Because what they're looking for an exemption. That's not part of this.
Mr. President, this is your counsel, Nori Marks. I'm not clear on what you're suggesting is going to be the process. I think the board has some modified text based on the comment from Dr. O. So you can consider it as a separate motion after you consider this modified text and then have a separate motion on modified text?
Yes.
Or when you have a motion, you can then discuss all of the modified text that the staff has provided as suggested.
We agree.
Text.
We agree. Okay, so you're saying that we should handle them both together? Or are you saying that we should handle them separately, which is what I thought we were doing?
You can do it either way. It might be easy enough to handle it as a comment after you go through these comments and then have one motion that speaks to proposed modified text that deals with the modified text that the staff has proposed with respect to the comments that came in during the public comment period, and then as well as Dr. Doe's suggested changes that came in after that. So then you would have one motion that approves modified text if that's the way the board should want to go.
So you're saying including Dr. Doe's exemption in the modified language?
If that's the way the board wishes to go, yes.
Okay, and then that would go out for another 15-day comment period?
Right, the same 15-day public comment period as the proposed modified text that the board is now considering.
Okay.
So it would go together. I mean, you could deal with it as separate motions, but then you would have separate motions, both approving modified text, and you can do it that way. It's going to be the same modified.
I'd rather do it the most simple way. So if you feel that it's simpler to do it together.
So Noreen, what would we do? In section B, it would say a licensed health facility, comma, prison pharmacy, and prison pharmacy is defined in health and safety code. I mean, is that where they're defined? Are they also defined in the health and safety code?
No, I believe that the board was sent supplemental materials that has an additional proposal for modified text that would be subsection C. So you can look at all of these comments now, and then you can look at the supplemental materials and then have one motion if the board wants to go that way to make any proposed modifications to all the text, including the possible addition of a subsection C.
Okay, has everybody received those additional materials regarding subsection C? Because I don't have them. Okay. I don't know why I don't have it.
Yeah, it came in. I saw it yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, is that what came yesterday?
Yeah, I saw it yesterday when I did the practice. I saw that it was sent.
Okay. Well, then that's where it belongs then. I was
It
under
should be helpful to members.
misunderstanding.
The recommended language is posted on the WebEx right now. It's the proposed language specific to the corrections is in C as posted on the screen. That's the recommended text being offered.
Okay.
Are you muted?
Okay, so we'll just add that and put it into the 15-day comment period.
Right. So I think when we make the motion, we're motioning this, that the proposed modified text presented to us
The revised
yesterday
modified,
or whatever. Yeah, the
yes.
revised proposed modified text is what we're.
Very good.
Okay.
What the board can do, since you're now discussing the comments that came in during the public comment period, you can finish going through the board members' comments and public comment on that, and then we can take a break and have everyone review the supplemental materials, including subsection C, and then Dr. Doe may have some additional comments on that because it may be a little bit different from what was proposed. And then we can come back and have one motion.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so, well, first I guess I've already taken all the comments, so from the members. So you're saying we need additional public comment?
No, I think what I would suggest now, since you've gone through public comment, I think what for the initial comments that came in during the public comment period, I think what I'd suggest now is taking maybe a 10-minute break and allow people to review the supplemental materials, and then we'll come back. Does that
Understood. I wasn't sure if you were talking about the 10-minute break after additional public comment. Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Let's go ahead and take the 10-minute break. We're due for one anyway.
Well, Greg, I think we should take public comment now that they see this on the screen and Dr. Doe has seen it.
Well, we'll take it again. We will take the public comment again when we return from the break. That's the idea.
I'd like to know if he's okay with this, I guess, but okay.
I mean, the purpose of the break is for everybody to review this again and then come back, and then we'll take public comment again.
Great. Before we take a break, I just want to welcome Jason Wise to our board.
Thank you.
Mr. Albert Wong, welcome to the board.
Thank you very much, Albert. Very nice to meet everybody.
Thank you. Well, you'll get to see everybody during closed session. Okay, let's take the break. Moderator?
We will now take a break for 10 minutes, returning at 10:52 a.m.
To review the proposed section C, and we've had all the other public comments. I think that the only thing left is to determine if Dr. Doe believes that section C, the revised modified text to include section C, will cover the exemption that he is looking for. So I would ask Dr. Doe to respond.
This is the moderator. I will unmute his microphone. Gregory Doe, I have unmuted you.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. Yes, the language as proposed does meet on me.
Great. Thank you very much. In that case, we'll go back to the board and we'll take a vote. Well, somebody will make a motion and we'll move on. So thank you, Dr. Doe. Okay, members, does somebody wish to make a motion to approve the modified text as revised to include section C?
This is I can make a motion to do that.
I'll second that.
Great. That's Ricardo?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. So we have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any more member comments?
President Lippy?
Yes.
Could you please confirm that the motion is consistent with the motion included in the meeting materials, that it's to accept the board staff recommended comment responses, approve the modified language that was displayed, including the exemption for corrections as recommended by board staff, to initiate a 15-day public comment period, and additionally, should no negative comments be received, the language may be adopted, and delegate to the executive officer the authority to make technical or non-substantive changes as may be required by the control agencies to complete the rulemaking file. We'd like to confirm that that is the motion being offered.
That's exactly what I said. Thank you. Okay, so that would be it. And Sung, are you good with that as far as the motion goes?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. And Ricardo, are you good with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, good. Now, are there any other member comments regarding this?
President, this is Jig. I
Yes.
had a question for the staff.
Yes.
When this is finalized, how much time are we giving everybody to be compliant to enforce the new requirement for pharmacy?
Hi, this is Anne again. So from a practical standpoint, this is going back out for additional 15-day comment period. So we're still very much in the promulgation stage. Once the board does finally adopt the language, it will go through various layers of review through the control agencies before it will be submitted to the Office of Administrative Law, which then will also do review. Typically, in a fast turnaround, that's probably 4 to 6 months. Following review and approval by the Office of Administrative Law, typically the effective date on a rulemaking is the next quarter. The board, however, can designate an alternative effective date if it would like. Traditionally, the board, once a regulation is passed, does allow for some enforcement discretion at the beginning while education and establishment of provisions are being made.
Does that answer? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Are there any other comments by members? Being none, moderator, let's open the line for public comment on the motion.
The Q&A panel is now open. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon at the bottom right corner of your screen. In the Ask field, please enter "I would like to make a comment" and submit that to all panelists. I will now pause for a moment to allow time for submission of requests. President Lippy, it looks like we have a request for comment from an individual by the name of Clint Hopkins.
Okay, let's go.
Clint, I have unmuted your microphone. You will have 2 minutes.
Good morning, President and Board. My name is Clint Hopkins, pharmacist, Bucci's Pharmacy here in Sacramento, California. And I just wanted to follow up on my previous email regarding comments to the proposed regulation here for auto refills and to clarify any questions about the difference between an automatic refill program and a medication synchronization program.
Okay, so you're asking about your comments that were made?
Correct.
Okay. Anne, are you familiar with his particular comments?
So I believe that this was discussed, it's regarding, if I understood correctly, the auto synchronization, and the board did discuss that and decided to clarify as part of the FAQs, the exact functions that constitute auto refill.
Does that answer you?
So, well, in the comment that the board posted back on my comment, it said the board does not possess sufficient information to answer the question based on the facts provided. No changes to the text are required in response to the comment. So is that changed?
If that question is directed to board staff, we do not believe that that changed. I think that synchronization programs could vary. It'll have to be a fact-specific assessment at each business location to determine whether or not their program will fall within the provisions of the regulation as proposed.
Okay. Are there any other comments? Public comments? If not, moderator, I think we can close the line.
Q&A panel is closed.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion which Anne described in full, and we have a second. So it's time to vote.
Mr. President, can I just, this is Noreen Marks, can I just make one quick point that I think that we want to make sure that all the comments have been addressed as to why they may be accepted or rejected. From my notes, I think almost everything had been addressed, except perhaps the comment with respect to providing confirmation of the patient's withdrawal or disenrollment. I believe all of the other comments have been addressed.
Okay, so so who do you want to address that one?
Well, it could be the maker of the motion who moved to approve the modified text as presented. If that person has a reason for not a reason for not accepting the comment, or it could be anyone else on the board who has a reason for not moving to accept that change, any change with respect to that language.
President Libby?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Should it be helpful? I think that one of the challenges that some of the consumers have indicated is that they believe that they have disenrolled from an auto refill program, yet continue to receive the medication. As such, the documentation that confirms that they have been disenrolled appears to be appropriate. Thank you.
Okay, so there you have it. And actually, that was discussed in the materials as well. Okay, so it's time to vote. We'll start with Sung-Oh.
Yes.
Thank you. Maria Serpa.
Yes.
Thank you. Ricardo Sanchez.
Yes.
Jason Weiss.
Yes.
Thank you. Ryan Ryan, are you still here? No, he had to take a break. Okay. Jake Patel.
Yes.
Okay. Cheryl Butler. Cheryl, you unmute.
Yes.
Cheryl? Okay. Thank you. Albert Wong.
Yes.
Thank you. My vote is yes. And Debbie Veal is out right now. So we do still have a quorum and the motion passes. And it's going out for a 15-day comment period. Next item is item 7B. Members, as included in the meeting materials, we will now consider the proposed regulation to amend Title 16 CCR, Section 1711 and 1713, and add Title 16 CCR, Section 1715.1, related to automated drug delivery systems. Meeting materials include several items, including comments received during the comment period, summary of the comments received with recommendations, staff recommended modified text, and the initial proposed text released for the 45-day comment period. Also, I trust everybody has read the meeting materials, and I'd like members to speak to several items during their respective comments. The one that I would most like to hear about is the public policy, or the policy consideration raised by staff. So, members, comments? I'll go down the roll. Maria Serpa?
I had a question, more than just the comments, and it's more of a, potentially it's a moot point, but I just wanted to clarify. The self-assessment portion and the PIC filling out the self-assessment in the regulations is very clear. But I recently heard of locations that are using automated dispensing systems of different types that are not connected to a licensed pharmacy. They're connected to patient care locations that are either less than 100 beds that don't have a pharmacist, but they have maybe a consultant pharmacist, or surgery centers that may or may not have a consultant pharmacist. So my question is about board purview in those areas that are unique but very troublesome.
Okay. Ann, do you have a comment on that?
So I think we would probably need to understand a little bit more about it. I think that at the root of the question is, are they using that device as a function of their licensure the board as a pharmacy, hospital, whatever the case may be? Or is that device being owned and operated in something outside of the board's purview? Council, Danny may have some additional thoughts on that.
Okay. Danny?
That's exactly kind of where I'm leading towards, because I know that many of this is outside of the board's purview because there's not a licensed pharmacy location that's attached to the locations of where the ADS machines are. But how does that deal with, or how does that coordinate with the use of a pharmacist consultant? I know in some of the situations they're required to have a once a month pharmacist consultant. And I guess I just need a little bit more education about the role of the consultant, and would it cover all medication distribution systems, including ADSs?
Good question. Do we have any response from council?
This is Danny, Regs Council. I would defer to what Ann said. I don't have anything really to add other than what Ann said in her comments.
Okay. Thank you. Maria, I guess that doesn't really answer your question.
Well, it does say that it doesn't fall into the scope of our discussion today, but it is a troublesome area, as it is a troublesome area for other medication delivery systems. But I appreciate the time that council and Ann have added to this discussion, but I can see that this is out of the scope of today's agenda item.
Right, understood. Thank you. Okay, how about Cheryl Butler? Do you have any comments on this? On item 7B?
No, I'm good with the position of our staff on this.
You're good with the...
I've read the comments, and I fully agree with the comments that staff has made.
Okay. Thank you. How about Jig Patel? Jig? Any comments?
Okay with the, no comments, thank you.
Okay. Sung-Ho?
No comment.
Okay. Jason Weiss?
No comments.
Thank you. Albert Wong?
No comment.
Okay, and Ricardo Sanchez?
Yeah, no comment.
Okay, nor do I. Let's open it up for public comment.
This is the moderator. I have opened the question and answer panel for public comment. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" into the ask field and submit it to all panelists. I will now pause for a moment to allow time for submission of requests. President Lippy, at this time, we've not received any requests for comment. Would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please.
Panel is closed.
Okay, so here's what we can do. We can adopt the regulation text as noticed for the 45-day comment period that was notified on July 3rd. We can amend the regulation to address concerns expressed by stakeholders and is recommended by board staff, and notice the modified text for a 15-day comment period. Possible amended language would accept the board staff recommended comment responses and approve the modified language as recommended by board staff, initiate a 15-day public comment period. And additionally, if no negative comments are received, we would delegate to the executive officer the authority to make technical or non-substantive changes as may be required by the control agencies to complete the rulemaking file. So, open for members to decide if you would want to adopt the regulation as it is or amend it as indicated by the modified text. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. President, this is Maria. I would like to move that we accept the modified text that staff have submitted in response to public comment.
Okay.
And this is Cheryl Butler, and I second.
Okay, great. Thank you.
This is board staff. Sorry to be a pain. Could I clarify that that motion is to accept board staff recommended comment responses and approve the modified language as recommended, initiate a 15-day comment period. Additionally, should no negative comments be received, the language will be considered adopted, and delegate to the executive officer the authority to make technical or non-substantive changes as may be required by control agencies to complete the rulemaking file?
Absolutely. It's consistent with what I had read as one of the alternatives. So thank you. Now it's time for public comment.
This is the moderator. I have opened the Q&A panel for public comment. We're displaying instructions on the screen for your use. I will pause a few moments to allow time for comment submission. We've received a request for public comment from an individual named John Gray.
Okay.
John, I have unmuted your microphone. You will have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. This is John Gray. I'm a registered pharmacist with Kaiser Permanente. I want to thank the board for its thorough review of and response to our feedback on the proposed regulations and the self-assessment, and just express that we're supportive of the board's direction and the motion to approve the modified regulation text and initiate a 15-day public comment period. So thank you again very much.
Thank you, John.
President Lippy, at this time, we've not received any additional requests for comment. Would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please.
The panel is closed.
Okay. All right. We have a motion. We have a second. So it's time to vote. Ricardo Sanchez, you're first.
I vote yes.
Thank you. Albert Wong.
Yes.
Thank you. Jake Patel.
Yes.
Thank you. Cheryl Butler.
Yes.
Thank you. Sung Ho.
Yes.
Thank you. Maria Serpa.
Yes.
Thank you. Jason Weiss.
Yes.
Thank you. I vote yes. And the motion passed.
And Mr. Lippy, this is Ryan Brooks. I vote yes also.
Oh, you're back. Okay.
Yeah, I sent you a text.
Thank you. Okay, the motion still passes. Thank you. Okay. Now, I will now turn the meeting, well, actually, what time is it, 11:15? Yeah, we can do this. I will now turn the meeting over to the Administrative Law Judge, Marcy Larson, who will preside over the petition hearings.
Mr. Weinberg, this is Judge Larson. Are you there?
I am here, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning. Are your clients with you?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so help me with, is it Eli's last name?
It's actually Eliyahu Sella or Eli Sella.
Eli Sella, all right. And am I saying this correctly, Emmanuel Pharmacy?
That's correct, doing business as Sunshine.
Yes, all right. So I still don't see you. Are you making arrangements to have your clients appear by phone or appear by video?
Yes,
Here we come.
they're here.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, so
All right.
I don't see it full.
Judge Larson, this is the moderator. Being that we're
Yes.
going to start with this case, I'm going to go ahead and just so they're aware also, I'm going to go ahead and put the petitioner for the first case back down in the attendee panel, and then I will pull them back up when it's their turn.
All right, that's fine. So you just let me know when you're ready, and I'm going to, I'll call the case and we will begin.
Board Member Jason Weiss, are you with us? And Jig Patel also?
Yeah. I am here.
When the time.
Okay.
I'll just.
It looks like we have all of the members, Judge Larson.
All right, excellent. So we're going to go ahead and get started then. All right, good morning. We're here on September 17th, 2020, approximately 11:37 a.m. in the matter of the petition for early termination of probation of Emmanuel Pharmacy doing business as Sunshine Pharmacy and Eli Sai. This matter is being heard before the Board of Pharmacy, Department of Consumer Affairs, State of California. It is case number 202-009-0403. And will the members of the board please identify yourselves for the record? And if we could start with our president, please.
President Lippy, you're on mute. Still on mute.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
Oh.
All right. Sorry about that. Greg Lippy, public member, president.
And
You want me to call the names?
Please, yes.
Okay. Okay, Sung-Oh.
I'm here.
Okay, Maria Serpa.
I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Ricardo Sanchez.
Ricardo Sanchez, public member.
Thank you. Jason Weiss.
Jason Weiss, public member here.
Thank you. Jig Patel.
I'm here, professional member. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheryl Butler.
Cheryl Butler, professional member.
Okay, thank you. Albert Wong.
Albert Wong, professional member.
Okay, and is Ryan Brooks back? No. Okay, that's it. We have a quorum.
Right. So a quorum has been established. As I explained earlier, my name is Marcy Larson. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings. I'm presiding over the matter this morning. Will the Deputy Attorney General in this matter please state your name for the record?
Yes, Summer Haro, Deputy Attorney General.
And counsel for petitioner, if you would please state your appearance.
Herbert Weinberg of the Fenton Law Group, representing both petitioners, Mr. Sella and Emmanuel Pharmacy, Inc.
Right, and Mr. Sella is present with you, correct?
Yes, he is.
Okay, so I'm just going to briefly go over how this hearing is going to proceed this morning, and then if anyone has any questions, you can ask me after I provide that explanation. This proceeding relates to, of course, the petition for early termination of probation that's been filed. The board is concerned with rehabilitation efforts the petitioners undergone since the discipline of their license. Ms. Haro, the Deputy Attorney General in this matter, represents the public. She will go first. She will submit the petition for early termination of probation into evidence and provide the board members with an orientation or overview of the history of discipline, as well as the documents in this matter. After Ms. Haro is done presenting that overview for the board, then petitioner will have an opportunity to make their presentation. I will swear in the petitioner, and then Mr. Weinberg, you'll be able to question the petitioner. Please remember that the board members have the benefit of having all of the documents that have been submitted in support of the petition. So you don't have to repeat everything that's in the documents, but if there's something in particular that you want the board members to focus on, please make sure that you do highlight that information for the board. Mr. Weinberg, after you're done questioning the petitioner, then Ms. Haro will have an opportunity to also question the petitioner. And then once Ms. Haro is done questioning the petitioner, then I will ask each of the board members if they have any questions for the petitioner. And then if there's anything final that the petitioner would like to add, he'll be allowed to do so. At the end of the proceeding, this matter will, after the hearings today are done, the board will go into closed session and deliberate. So the petitioner will not receive a decision today. They will receive a written decision sometime in the future. All right, any questions before I ask Ms. Haro to identify the documents in this matter and to give the board an overview of the matter?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, then, Ms. Haro, if you would please begin.
Thank you. I'm Deputy Attorney General Summer Haro. I'm appearing on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522, representing the people of the state of California. I'm here to assist the panel in fact-finding. My role is not adversarial, but is intended to protect the public interest. I'm here to ensure that the panel has adequate information from which to make a decision. I would first like to mark for identification and offer into evidence as Exhibit 1, the petition packet with accompanying documents. The board members and petitioner have been provided with a copy of the same set of this exhibit. Exhibit 1 generally consists of a petition for early termination of probation for petitioner Soleil and petition for early termination of probation for petitioner Emmanuel Pharmacy, Inc., doing business as Sunshine Pharmacy, as well as attachments to that petition. Those attachments generally include 4 letters of recommendation. 2 are from licensed pharmacists. 1 is from the petitioner's tax preparer, who is not aware of petitioner's activities, and 1 from petitioner's property manager, who also stated that they were not aware of any discipline and only knows petitioner Soleil personally, as opposed to professionally. The attachments also include correspondence from petitioner's counselor, their counsel, excuse me, and SAO regarding the termination or non-acceptance of petitioners into their programs. The attachments also include certificates of continuing education by pharmacy staff and a letter from the board confirming completion of all required continuing education for the first 2 years as required by the probation. Attachments also include proof of petitioner Soleil's completion of ethics continuing education courses as required by the terms of probation. The attachments include proof of payments of costs in probation monitoring required by the terms of probation. There's a verification of employment completed, a verification of notice to employees, verification of owners and officers' knowledge of the law. All of those terms were required by the probation. And finally, the last attachment to the petitions are a proof of completion of 157 hours of continuing education by petitioner Soleil. In addition to the petition and its attachments, Exhibit 1 includes the board's October 18th, 2017 decision adopting the stipulated settlement and disciplinary order as well as the agreement by petitioner to the electronic recording of this hearing. At this time, I offer this packet into evidence as Exhibit 1.
Mr. Weinberg, any objection to Exhibit 1?
None, Your Honor.
All right, Exhibit 1 is admitted. And then I have also marked for exhibit, as an exhibit, Exhibit 2, which is the notice of hearing that was sent in this matter. This is a jurisdictional document that demonstrates that Mr. Sully received notice of the hearing today. And that's dated September 8th, 2020, and that's marked for identification and for jurisdictional purposes as Exhibit 2. Ms. Haro, any objection to that document?
No.
Mr. Weinberg, any objection to the notice of hearing?
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 2 is admitted for jurisdictional purposes. All right, any further documents in this matter for the board to consider, Ms. Haro?
Not that I have with me, but I understand that this morning, shortly before the hearing, Mr. Weinberg had emailed some documents to board staff that he may want to admit, but I only know that they were submitted to board staff.
All right, Mr. Weinberg, so I don't have additional documents. Those would have had to have been filed by the with the Office of Administrative Hearings. So if there are additional documents, those need to somehow get to me as well.
Yes, Your Honor. The documents, as Deputy Attorney General said, from an Exhibit 1 contained 157 hours of continuing education. What we sent in this morning was proof of 339 hours to date of continuing education.
Right, I understand that, but I have to have those documents because I'm the holder of the documents that are admitted into evidence. So somehow those have to get to me. Do you understand?
I do understand, and we did send them in through Ms. Baltazar at the OAH, and how would we then get them to you, Your Honor?
I'm not sure who Ms. Baltazar is. At the Office of Administrative Hearings?
I believe so. She was the person who, let's see, Lupe Baltazar, Administrative Case Analyst from the Board of Pharmacy. We suggested her. That's who we did. Yeah.
All right. I'm a judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, so I'm actually not part of the Board of Pharmacy. I'm with the Office of Administrative Hearings. So we're going to somehow need to figure out before this matter is submitted how those documents can get to me. So what we can do is I will proceed. We'll proceed with Ms. Haro giving an overview of for the board of the history in this matter. And then we may need to take a break to figure out how staff can get me the additional documents that you've submitted. All right?
Yes, I suspect what I'll be doing is asking my assistant to email them into the Office of Administrative Hearings. Now, that would be up in San Francisco, however, I take it.
No, I'm in Sacramento, but we'll figure that out in a little bit.
All right.
All right. Ms. Haro, if you would please begin.
Thank you. I will now provide a brief summary of petitioner's license history with the board. On October 13th, 1999, the board issued pharmacy permit number PHY 44317 to petitioner Emmanuel Pharmacy, Inc., doing business as Sunshine Pharmacy. On August 4th, 2004, the board issued pharmacist license number RPH 55937 to petitioner Eliel Wu. I apologize, Soleil, and that is spelled ELIAHOUSELEH. On July 11th, 2017, the board files first amended accusation number 5719 against both petitioners. The accusation alleged 18 causes of disciplinary action for operational standards and security, duty to review the policies and procedures manual, violations of these things, violations of compounding and facilities equipment. There were adulterated medications, unprofessional conduct, compounding master formula requirements, compounding quality assurance, training of compounding staff, maintenance of records, records of compounded drug products, duty to complete compounding self-assessment, records of compounded drug products, labeling of the compounded drug products, unprofessional conduct, failure or refusal to maintain or produce required drug or device records, retaining records of dangerous drugs, and unprofessional conduct constituting acts or omissions by a pharmacist. The accusation arose following a board inspection in March of 2015. During that inspection, board inspectors found that the following violations had occurred in 2014 and 2015. The findings were that the pharmacy fixtures and equipment were not maintained in a clean and orderly condition at the time of the inspection. The policies and procedures had not been reviewed by the pharmacist in charge for more than a year. The equipment used to compound drug products were not stored, used, and maintained in accordance with manufacturer's specifications. Products in petitioner's active drug inventory did not list expiration dates. Petitioner's policy and procedures documents falsely represented the existence of facts and listed procedures that were not performed, including reference to a clean room and rooms that were not actually in existence at the facility. There was no complete master formulas for compounded drugs that were available for the inspector's review. There were no records of quantitative or qualitative analysis of compounded drugs that were available for review by the inspector. No records of initial or ongoing training were available for review. The petitioner failed to list the identity of the pharmacist reviewing the final product. No records of compounding self-assessment were available. There were no records of certificates of purity or analysis of chemicals, bulk drug substances, drug products, and components used in compounding for drug products not approved by the FDA. Compounded drug labels and patient receipts did not contain a statement that the drug had been compounded. Petitioners failed to preserve records for 3 years from the date of making and failed to produce records of acquisition. And finding that petitioner Saleh repeatedly billed Medicare for drugs, which he did not have equaling records of acquisition for. In August 2017, petitioners entered into a stipulated settlement. In doing so, they admitted that if the disciplinary action of accusation number 5719 proceeded to hearing, that the complainant could establish a factual basis for the charges in that accusation. In that stipulation for petitioner Emmanuel, the pharmacy, the stipulation provided for the revocation of license stayed on 5 years probation pursuant to the following terms: obey all laws, quarterly report to the board, interviews with the board, cooperate with board staff, reimbursement of board costs, probation monitoring costs. The status of the license shall remain current. License surrender while on probation suspension. Notice to employees. Owners and officers' knowledge of the law. Posted notice of probation. Terms regarding consequences of violation of probation. Completion of probation and prohibitions or requirements, for the consultant for owner or pharmacist in charge, as well as remedial education requirements. For petitioner Saleh, the stipulation provided for the revocation of license stayed on 5 years probation pursuant to the following terms: obey all laws, quarterly report to the board, interviews with the board, cooperate with board staff, continuing education requirements, notice to employers, no supervision of interns serving as pharmacist in charge, serving as designated representative in charge, or serving as a consultant. Reimbursement of board costs, probation monitoring costs, the status of the petitioner's license shall remain current, terms for license surrender while on probation or suspension, a notice of change in name, residence address, mailing address, or employment, terms for tolling of probation, violation of probation, the completion of probation, as well as terms for remedial education and an ethics course. On October 18th, 2017, the board adopted the stipulation as its order, and that decision became effective November 17th, 2017. Petitioners are now petitioning for early termination of their probation, and because the burden is on petitioners, I have no further statements, but reserve the right to question petitioners. Thank you.
All right, so Mr. Weinberg, it's now your opportunity to have your clients testify in this matter. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is I'm going to swear in Mr. Saleh. And then if you want to give a brief opening remarks after that, you can, or otherwise you can just start with the questioning of Mr. Saleh, all right?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Saleh, if you please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm, under penalty of perjury, that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state and spell your name.
My name is Eliyahu Saleh, Eliahou Saleh.
All right, so Mr. Saleh, your attorney, Mr. Weinberg, is going to be asking you some questions. It's very important that you wait until he finishes his question completely before you answer it. If you hear Ms. Haro say the word objection, she's objecting to a question that's being asked of you. So please don't answer the question unless I direct you to do so. After Mr. Weinberg is done questioning you, then Ms. Haro will have an opportunity to question you. And then I will ask the board members if they have any questions for you as well. Do you understand?
I do.
All right, Mr. Weinberg, you're a witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, I don't know if it's good morning or good afternoon or right around at noon. So at any rate, Ellie, we're not here today to try the case. However, Deputy Attorney General Harrow set out the causes for discipline in the case and made some statements with regard to the discipline. What I'm going to be asking you is, do you have any comments about anything that was mentioned by Deputy Attorney General Harrow that might clarify some of the issues for the board, for the tribunal here, and for the Board of Pharmacy and for Judge Walker? For instance, I think it was mentioned that no log formula worksheet was produced by the pharmacy when the inspector came in. Was in fact a formula worksheet produced?
Yes, we used a pharmacy compounding system from PCCA, and all the formulas that we got were inputted into that pharmacy system, pharmacy software, and were printed. And we did send originally in 2017 to the board the formulas that we did receive from the PCCA, and they were documented, and it had both the pharmacist's name on there and also the technician's name on there. Those were all there.
Okay. And those documents were in fact sent to the board and would be, I assume, therefore, stop me if I'm not correct, would be part of the evidence that was submitted to the board.
I'm 99% sure that we did send it to them, and we did show it to them. Every formula that we did, everything that we did was in that compounding software. We printed it out, and we had everything, all the formulas in there. So I mean, it did have in that formulas the pharmacist's name and the technician's name.
Okay, and it was also asserted that the labeling was incorrect on compounded medications, and that it didn't say on the label who compounded the medication. I'm holding such a label in front of me dated February the 2nd, 2015. Were the labels, did the labels contain a statement as to who, in your recollection of this?
Our compounding.
Let me finish the question, as Rana said. Did the labels contain a statement as to where the compounds were actually produced?
The pharmacy systems, Cerner pharmacy systems, the auxiliary label that printed with all compounding medication automatically, it says compounded by Sunshine Pharmacy, and it would automatically print out with the label. When the label has a patient's name, medication name, all of those will be printing out with the label.
And would examples of such labels have been submitted to the Board of Pharmacy just prior to the hearing? And well, there was no hearing, but as the respondent's response to the accusation?
I'm 99% sure we did send it to the board.
Okay. Is there anything else? Any other comment that you'd like to make related to the assertions that were made or the causes for discipline that were enumerated by Deputy Attorney General Harrell?
Something that I'm still not clear with is that when the inspector originally came in March 18th, 2015, the inspection report lists five accusations. Things I understand that are developed afterwards, found afterwards. But if there was no self-assessment, company self-assessment, I would think that should be one of the accusations in the inspection report. If there's no compounded by Sunshine Pharmacy label, or there's no log formula workout, all these are things that are not found afterwards. Those are things that are found out at the time of the inspection. I still don't understand if those really existed. Why didn't the inspector list those in the original findings when she was there? There was only five. I don't understand how with this five later on these are things that were not found out afterwards. I mean, if there's no self-assessment, you see it right then. When you're in the pharmacy, there's no self-assessment. I'm still not clear.
Ms. Harrell mentioned the 4 letters of support that were submitted on your behalf for this hearing. And she mentioned in 2 of them that because the board contacted the writers, and she mentioned in 2 of them that there was some question about that one said that he didn't write or sign it. I see that in the board's response here, that he didn't write or sign it, and that would have been from Samuel Halpern. Can you explain why and how he might have said that?
Yes, I spoke to him yesterday. I did email him the letter, and I said, listen, this is your signature. I mean, why would you tell the board you didn't write it? He said that it was over a year ago and he had forgotten about it, and because of his age, he didn't remember it. But I mean, definitely he said that this is my signature. That he even wrote his pharmacy license number under there. So he did, and I spoke to him yesterday.
And how old is Mr. Halpern, to your knowledge?
I would say he's high 80s, maybe low 90s.
Okay. And you say that this is his signature?
Yes.
All right.
100%.
And I assume that the board has an exemplar of his signature from documents that he might have submitted to the board?
I believe, yes.
Okay. The second one was a letter from Kirk Karamanukian, who I believe is your landlord. Is that correct?
Yes.
And how many letters did Mr. Karamanukian send to the board?
He sent 2 letters. First was on January 18, 2017. And originally, when we wanted to send to the board of letters, before the probation, and in that letter also, the last paragraph, he wrote, "I am aware that that they are currently undergoing a board pharmacy audit accusation. As such, please contact me." So he did write that in the letter dated January 18, 2017, and also I believe also in the letter that he sent recently, as well, he wrote that. And I spoke to him as well. He said he was very nervous. He didn't know, he was busy at the time the board called him. He was off guard. He didn't really understand what they were asking and he was confused.
But those letters do, it's to your knowledge, those letters do contain a statement stating that he is aware of the accusation.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Have you're very familiar with the disciplinary guide, the discipline that was imposed upon you, the 5-year probation, are you not?
Yes.
Right. And you're familiar also, are you not, with all of the terms that were to be followed in that document? And have you complied with all of the items of discipline that were imposed upon you? Right. And how many hours of continuing education have you taken since the effective date of that disciplinary order?
339 hours.
Okay. One moment, please, Your Honor. Now, you agreed originally to forego a hearing, and you agreed to enter into a stipulated settlement with the board and accept the 5 hours. What has changed, if anything, to make you now, and you state that you're in complete compliance, why now are you approaching the board to have the probation terminated?
I mean, being on probation, you're learning, it was a learning process for me. And I'm very grateful to have that opportunity. What really hurt it was that we were not aware that the insurance companies would terminate us. The PSAO terminated us. Our pharmacist mutual insurance terminated us. We had to buy insurance at a much higher. We were lucky actually to find one that would actually accept us. Our workers' comp and liability insurance, even medications, buying groups kicked us out. Patients, we lost many patients. Some patients we lost because we couldn't accept their insurance anymore. Other patients we lost because we have a big sign that says that we're on probation, and every patient that came in, we explained to them why we're on probation, and the patients, a lot of them left because of that. So a lot of things affected the pharmacy that don't know how much longer that we would be able to stay.
It's my understanding that the vast majority, up to 90% of all payments to pharmacies come through billings to what's called prescription benefit management companies, such as CVS Caremark, Optum Rx, and Express Scripts. When you agreed to sign for the stipulated settlement, were you aware that these PBMs could use the fact that a pharmacy or a pharmacy owner or a pharmacist in charge is on probation, if a pharmacy is on probation, that the PBMs have the right to terminate that pharmacy from their provider network? Were you aware of that?
I was not aware, and now I'm aware that not only if a pharmacy is on probation, but even if a pharmacy is not, but a owner, even if a 10% owner is on probation, they will still terminate you, as they do credentialing every year, and they know exactly who is an owner, what percentage, if they are on probation, and even if the pharmacy is not on probation, but a pharmacist is, they could still have the right to terminate.
And have you experienced such terminations?
We have, yes.
All right, and have you experienced terminations? And what's the result of termination from a provider network?
The patients obviously don't want to pay out of pocket. They would go to another pharmacy.
Right. And have you lost business as a result of being terminated from provider networks?
Many.
Right. Okay. Uh, And is that the reason, is your fear of being terminated from the major provider networks a reason that you have filed this petition?
That is also another reason is because me currently trying to find, I only work one full day and then two half days basically. I try to find other work because I'm on probation. I'm not able to find other work because people hiring, as soon as they find someone on probation, they know that the pharmacy would be visiting their facility more because of the pharmacist on probation and would not hire me because of that. So one of my agreements is to work 40 hours a day, 40 hours a month. I'm sorry. If Sunshine Pharmacy is not able to continue, I don't think I would be able to find. I mean, I've been trying to find, even if something's far, close. I've tried I'm not found somebody that would be able to hire because of the probation.
Okay, do you have a statement that you'd like to make before this tribunal? Okay.
First, I wanted to thank the board and the judge for allowing me the opportunity to be here and to express my case. At first, it was very, very difficult for me emotionally. It was a very humbling experience, as I explained, that having to explain to our patients, some of them that were basically have been there for so many years and were practically family members. And my kids' names, they knew, and I had to explain to them that what had happened was in probation. Many of them left. As time went on, I was able to slow down, step back, reevaluate what had happened, and I started to reflect what brought me to this place. As a pharmacist, patient care, safety has always been my main focus. I've never written my life risk my patient safety. There was no patient harm resulted as my mistake. There was, as much as I'm aware of, there was no patient complaint. So I said to myself, what caused this? Why was I punished so severely? I've realized that working fast, not triple checking my work got me into this situation, into this mess. Even though the formulas that we got were provided by a reputable company, I should have triple checked all my work. Medication that was not purchased enough, the name was cyclobenzaprine. Cyclobenzaprine, we sent Exhibit 2B to the board, shows how much it costs. 100 tablets is $2.48. Clearly, nobody would ever save money, 100 tablets, $2.48, by not using this medication, by not purchasing it. It's obvious that it was a result of my past work, didn't triple check my work. I'm terribly sorry about that, for my errors. The past almost 3 years that I'm on probation, I've had the privilege of being around amazing people. Being around Mr. Weinberg has helped me a lot. I've been around our pick, Audrey. She's amazing, very knowledgeable. I've learned a lot from her. We have a consultant, Jeb. He's helped me a lot. He's done mock audits in the pharmacy. He sends out newsletters. I've learned a lot through the CEs that I'm doing, that I've done, and I will continue. My main goal is to become much more knowledgeable in the pharmacy world, to be able to pass the MTM board, get board certified with medication therapy management, and continue that service and to do that full time. That is my goal. And that's what I've done. 339. It's actually more than that, because that was only the test that I've got approved, but there was also a lot of videos I've listened to, things that were not CEs. I understand, as a pharmacist, having a pharmacy license is a privilege. I've never or will never take this as granted. I'm truly sorry for my mistake. I believe that I've learned my lesson. I've paid dearly with this for the past almost 3 years. I've always enjoyed my profession. I'm asking to be able to practice it with dignity and pride. Again, I appreciate your time. I appreciate a lot of time today.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, so I just received notification that that the additional continuing education documents have been submitted. And Ms. Haro, you have a copy of those documents, correct?
Correct.
And the board members received copies of those documents, the additional proof of continuing education, Ms. Haro?
That I did not forward it to them because I had gotten it while the board meeting was going on. I just got the email saying, here are more documents.
All right, I'll ask our President Lippy, if you could tell me, did the board members receive the additional evidence of continuing education from petitioner?
I did not receive it, but frankly, he had quite a bit of continuing education even without it. So I don't think it's going to be a major factor.
That may be the case, but it has been submitted. It is documents that petitioner would like to submit into evidence. It sounds like it was forwarded to the board. Mr. Weinberg, who at the board did you forward the documents to?
I think he said Lupe Balazar or something. Is it?
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
Correct. Who is an analyst, it's called administrative case analyst. That's her title.
Right. Well, I mean, it wasn't in the documents that I got, so we can check into it. But with the 157 hours that we had before, I mean, that's commendable. So.
All right. So I do have the
documents.
I do have the documents, so we'll figure out a way how to get the board members to take a look at those. Ms. Haro, do you have any objection to the additional continuing education? I've marked it for identification as Exhibit A.
No objection.
All right, Exhibit A is admitted. All right, Ms. Haro, any questions for the petitioner?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Soleil, prior to the probation and the stipulation being entered by you, as you sit here today, do you think there was anything problematic about your prior practices with maintaining a safe compounding pharmacy?
Could you please repeat? Problems with what?
Sure. Do you think, as you sit here today, that there were any problems you had with maintaining a safe compounding pharmacy before you entered into the stipulation?
Compounding, meaning were the fixtures clean? Is that what you were saying? I understand.
I want to know if there were any problems that you had with maintaining a safe pharmacy.
Did I have any problems? I didn't have any problems.
You don't think you had any problems?
I'm not understanding the question. Sorry.
All right. So you entered into a stipulation pursuant to, because an accusation was pending, and that accusation included allegations about the practices at your pharmacy. You understand that, right?
Correct.
As you sit here today, do you think that there were any problems that you had with the practices of that pharmacy?
Yes.
What do you think those problems were?
Number one problem was that I was doing things very fast. I should have slowed down. And that's one of the major benefits that I've had these past 3 years. I've stepped back. I've watched how our pick is handling the pharmacy. She's an amazing lady. I've learned a lot from her. I've learned a lot from the videos. I've watched a lot of compounding videos, how things are done, how documentation is more carefully done. I've learned a lot this past 3 years.
What would you say is the most important thing you've learned from that information these last 3 years?
Being a pharmacist, unfortunately, you're forced to act very fast. And sometimes you have to just, no matter how busy you are, how many phone calls there are, whatever it is, you have to step back, say, I have to work slower. I have to make sure this is the most important thing. Even though there's a lot to do in the pharmacy, and a lot of times you could be understaffed, you have to take back and slow down, triple check, quadruple check, make sure everything is 100% correct. No matter, you have to triple, quadruple check. That's the number one thing I've learned. So very slowly make sure everything is.
During these last 3 years, have you put in place any new policies and procedures for ensuring that the compounding space is sanitary?
Yes. Even before the probation started, we stopped compounding 100%. And we have not done any compounding at all. And my goal is not to go back to compounding. My goal is to add medication therapy management to the pharmacy, get board approved, board certified medication therapy manager. And that's what I would like to continue to do that. That's my goal.
Have you instituted any other policies and procedures at the pharmacy since you entered probation?
Since we entered probation, we hired Jeb, who's a consultant, and besides doing mock pharmacy audits, he also has policy procedure that comes inside the pharmacy. We go through it together. He makes sure not only myself and the pharmacist in charge understand the policies, but also the staff. He asks questions, and it's been eye-opening and 100% improvement.
Are there any specific policies or procedures that you've implemented that you feel improve the safety of the pharmacy?
We do have, besides Jeb coming in and doing a mock audit, that's something we didn't have before. We also have mandated that all the continuing education that's done, and make sure that the people working in the pharmacy understand how it is, and the reversals, the putting back, the delivery, everything has to follow exact what the policies are.
No further questions at this time, Judge.
All right, I'm now going to open up the questioning to our board members, starting with our president, President Lippy. If you have any questions.
I do, Your Honor. First one of the causes for discipline was unprofessional conduct. And it stated that as of the inspection, several policy procedure documents were discovered that falsely represented the existence of facts, including but not limited to the policy manual entitled the Quality Assurance Program, which included information about sterile compounding, a clean room facility, and process validation. The policy titled Non-Sterile Compounding Personnel Qualification also included information about procedures that were not performed. Do you agree with that?
What we did was we bought a policy procedure for pharmacy, and it was a policy procedure that represented all pharmacies, right? So some pharmacies, they do sterile, some pharmacies don't do sterile. Having that in our policy procedure, when we reviewed it, we didn't cross it out, making sure that I'm showing that it didn't apply to our pharmacy. It was not a policy procedure that, it was just a general policy procedure. I did not know that we had to cross it out. I thought, okay, fine, I don't have a clean room. Okay, but it doesn't, I mean, if it's there, it's not hurting anybody, right? If I make a clean room, then I'll follow this policy procedure. But now I understand that a policy procedure has to show exactly what is happening in the pharmacy. If I don't have a clean room, then I cannot have a policy procedure that mandates to the cleaning. But previously, I thought it could be there. I mean, it's not hurting anybody. But now I understand that and that's what we have a customized policy procedure that shows what's happening in the farm.
Okay, the reasons that you gave for wanting to be reinstated are primarily because of negative impacts that this is having on you. But you didn't state that the reason is because of the rehabilitation that you've done. So I'm wondering why you didn't approach it from a standpoint of, here's the reason why I should be reinstated, not this is what's happening to me.
Right, and I just want to clarify for the record. So this is a petition for reduction of penalty. So so it's just to get rid of. No, this is a petition.
Oh, I'm sorry, I said reinstatement. But
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page. So petition for reduction, termination of probation. Yes. Okay. All right. So you could answer that question, please.
Yes. I mean, I've signed a 5-year probation. I believe that I have changed 100%. I believe I am ready to continue and to go to my medication therapy management, start that program in the pharmacy. That's I would not, if not the if the insurance companies would not drop us, if my insurance company, workers' company drop us, if the other PSAOs would, like, I mean, all the negative things that happen, I mean, I would go through with it, but I'm not able to find additional jobs. I mean, even for one day a week, I have not been able to find. You know, I've not been able to find I mean, I have experience in filling prescriptions and all these things. They know that, but they don't hire us because they're scared that the Board of Pharmacy is going to. They know that the Board of Pharmacy will be visiting their pharmacy anywhere that there's a person that is probation. So that's the reason I didn't go that route because of the fact that I signed for it. But I did not know that it would lead to this. I was never told that it would lead to being terminated, not being hired.
So you're saying you would not have agreed to the stipulation and the probation if you knew that?
Correct.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Veal, any questions for the petitioner?
I think she's stepped away.
All right, Dr. Serpa, any questions for the petitioner?
Yes, thank you. I think several of the people have asked questions in a similar vein, and I think I'm going to just state it in a more blunt manner. One of the things that we are looking for and to make a determination of a reduction in probation is that you address each cause and how it's different today. I completely understand about how inconvenient and how difficult it is to be on probation and how you want the probation to be lessened. That is understood, and you've repeated that several times. But what I haven't heard, and I think I've been hearing people asking you specific questions, is the causes that were brought up during your case, how are they different today that you can say, I have taken care of that, it's no longer an issue, I don't need 2 more years to fix it, I fixed it now?
Thank you. The major of the causes.
I've asked the petitioner to get a copy of the accusations because I don't think he knows the causes from memory.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll refresh his memory from the accusation itself.
The main accusations were against compounding. I have watched over 100 hours of videos and books and and educated myself more on compounding. Plus, we've stopped all compounding. Even before we started to do the probation, we 100% stopped all compounding in the pharmacy. The fixtures and cleaning equipment, we've hired a specialty group that cleans pharmacies, and they're doing an unbelievable job. Everything's, I mean, it's clean. And the second cause was the policy procedure. We hired Jeff, who's a consultant, and he has made, and we go through it together to make sure that everything in that policy procedure represents everything that we do. Expiration dates. We have a system in the pharmacy where anything that is expired that year, we put, like if it's expired in September, we put a 9 on it with a red marker. So even just glancing from glancing at the medications, you're able to see which ones are expired, which ones are not expired. So you could pull them out right away. And we do check every 3 months. And whichever ones are being expired, again with a red mark, we put the month that it's expired, so we know how to pull those out. Again, compounding we don't do. One of the causes was cyclobenzaprine was not purchased. Again, that was an error in calculations. Cyclobenzaprine, generic medication. You don't do compounding. I'm not sure if there's any other ones. Yeah, basically, mainly the accusations were against compounding. I believe I addressed.
Dr. Serpa, do you have any other questions for the petitioner?
No, thank you very much for your thoughtful responses.
Thank you.
Mr. Brooks, do you have any questions for the petitioner?
I'm abstaining because I missed part of the petition.
All right. Dr. Butler, do you have any questions for the petitioner?
No, because board member Serpa asked a question that I was really interested in getting an answer to. And I agree that, we were able to get the answers we needed to hear.
All right, thank you. Dr. O, do you have any questions for the petitioner?
Ron, you're going to respond?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to unmute. Sorry. I'm not sure if it's possible or not, but I would, if I could, I would love to see a video or picture of the pharmacy. That will probably be what I really want to see, but I'm not sure if it's possible or not.
So are there any pictures of the pharmacy in any of the exhibits that have been provided to the board members, Mr. Weinberg?
Not that I'm aware of, Your Honor.
So that's not a document that's in evidence at this time?
Not at this hearing. Let me ask: was there ever photographs? Were there ever photographs submitted to the board?
I believe originally, before, after the inspection, I think there was we sent the board a response, and in that response, I believe there was, if I'm not mistaken, originally in 2017, when we sent the board, I believe.
But nothing has been
recently.
Nothing has been submitted for this hearing.
Right, and the board members are limited to the documents that have been submitted into evidence at this hearing.
Understood.
Dr. O, any other questions?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, then. Mr. Patel, do you have any questions for the petitioner?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Mr. Sanchez, do you have any questions for the petitioner?
No, I don't. No question.
All right, Dr. Wong, do you have any questions for the petitioner?
Yeah, no question. Thank you.
And then Mr. Weiss, do you have any questions for the petitioner?
No, I do not. No questions.
Right. All right then, if there's no additional questions from the board members, is there anything additional that the petitioner would like to add before we proceed to closing remarks? No? All right then, so the petitioner, of course, has the burden of proof in this case. I'm sorry, was there somebody that? So the petitioner has the burden of proof in this case. So that means that Mr. Weinberg, you can give closing remarks, and then I will ask Ms. Haro to give brief closing remarks.
Thank you, Your Honor. The accusation, and the board has seen many accusations and with increasing frequency, unfortunately, very serious violations. This accusation contained no corresponding responsibility issues, no patient harm. The pharmacy was untidy. The niceties of compounding were not kept, but compounding no longer is an issue with the pharmacy. Within the past several years, the prescription benefit management companies have adopted policies which are favorable to chain stores and detrimental to independents. For instance, restrictions on compounding, which chain stores do not engage in, and prohibitions against mailing and shipping by common carriers, which chain stores likewise do not engage in, because the chain stores would rather have the patient wait the half an hour to 40 minutes so that they can browse through the store and maybe buy a beach chair. Sunshine Pharmacy doesn't sell beach chairs, so it's very important for Sunshine Pharmacy to be able to submit claims for patients, fill prescriptions for patients, submit claims to PBMs, and know that they're going to be adjudicated and approved and paid. And the recent changes in what the PBMs are doing, which is looking for any reason to get rid of an independent pharmacy, and most recently, and I believe that this began after September 2017, when the chain stores now are, when the PBMs are now, if a pharmacy is on probation, if a pharmacy owner is on probation, if the pharmacist in charge is on probation, they summarily terminate that pharmacy from the provider network. And in essence, that is a death sentence for the pharmacy. So the Board of Pharmacy has a mandate on, as the board is aware, to monitor the practice of pharmacy and to protect the public. That is its mandate. The board does not have a reciprocal mandate to be overly punitive when another course is open to it. It's my fear that if this petition is not granted, that this pharmacy will not survive. If the Board of Pharmacy didn't want the pharmacy to survive, they would have revoked its license. So we are now at a crossroads which requires some action by the board in light of the fact that the pharmacist petitioner, Mr. Sella, has acknowledged the errors he's made, has adequately, I believe, demonstrated for the board that corrective actions have been taken, has complied with all of the elements of probation to date, of the disciplinary order to date, to permit him to, and as President Lippy said, he said, I'm sure he wasn't looking to deprecate the reason that I am giving to you, which is equally important for the life of the pharmacy, to be able to sustain its business by not being terminated from provider networks, as it is important for the pharmacist to have acknowledged his errors and the remediation that he took. So we are requesting and urging the board to consider these petitions and to act to terminate the present probation. I believe it actually will be in the public interest. Thank you so much.
Ms. Haro, closing remarks.
Always closing and submit. Thank you.
All right, then, Mr. Weinberg, matter submitted on behalf of petitioner.
Submitted.
All right, the matter is submitted and the record is closed. We are off the record with regards to this petition matter. All right, then. So with that, Mr. Weinberg, you're free to stay on or hang up. I think we were going to be hearing the next petition matter in this case. The Pacific.
Which also is coming from our office, Your Honor.
Oh, all right. Well, then I guess staying on.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Let me get it.
Thank you, Judge Larson. This is the moderator.
Yes.
I am dropping Mr. Weinberg back into the attendee panel. Which petitioner are we proceeding with next?
Well, actually, he's going to be on this one as well, it appears. This is the Pacific West. He's counsel for this as well.
They actually have a different counsel for that case.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. Okay, so counsel is Nick Jerkowitz. I'm making him a panelist now.
Oh, all right.
Mr. Nick Jerkowitz, if you can please unmute your microphone so we can do a mic check.
Yes, good afternoon.
Hello, thank you. And I believe the petitioner is Corey Whitney. Corey was in our attendee panel but has since dropped off.
Did he drop off?
He did.
All right, let me email him. I know he was on before. So
He was. I saw him there, yes.
Oh, he's on, he said, as Pacific West.
Okay. I see it. I have now made him a panelist. Looking for an audio feed. Corey, this is the moderator. I've promoted you to a panelist. However, I do not see an audio feed. When you logged into the meeting, did you log in and utilize the Join Now button? Or you may have utilized the Join by Browser button, which frequently happens, and then we do not have an audio connection. If you could please check your audio and video connection. And then if you did use the Join by Browser button, you'll need to log out and log back in using the Join Now button.
He said they're on the call in as 34.
Okay, so they have a separate audio. Okay, so the call-in user 34, I'm unable to make them a panelist, which means they definitely logged in using the Join by Browser option, which will not work in this instance. So they will unfortunately need to call back in and use the Join Now button.
So they have to hang up and then call back in?
Correct. And when they call back in, they need to use the Join Now button, which will be displayed below where they enter their name for signing in purposes.
Okay, I have just emailed him that, but he's listening to it too. So
I will put up a slide that kind of shows where the Join Now versus Join by Browser is. All right, I see another Pacific West Pharmacy. There's another Pacific West Pharmacy in our attendee panel. I will make them a panelist. All right, so Pacific West Pharmacy, I'm assuming this is Corey Whitney. If you could now unmute your microphone so we could do a mic check.
Okay, it's Art Whitney, his father.
Okay. We can hear you. And did you have a video you were planning on utilizing today?
We have it. We're trying to get it started here.
Okay. There should be a button on your screen that says start video.
Oh, can't connect to webcam. Oh, I see why. Go on. There you go. Does that work?
That works. We can see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right then. And we have council is also still on the call. Mr. Jorkowitz?
Yes, I am here.
All right. And Ms. Haro, you're here as well?
Yeah.
Ms. Haro, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And then if our moderator is also ready, we'll go ahead and get started.
We are ready.
All right. We are on the record in the matter of the petition for early termination of probation of Pacific West Pharmacy, September 17th, 2020. It's approximately 12:48 p.m. This matter is being heard by the Board of Pharmacy, Department of Consumer Affairs, State of California. This is case number 202-0090-404. My name is Marcy Larson. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, presiding over the matter this afternoon. We do have a quorum of the board members present. Will the Deputy Attorney General please state your appearance for this matter?
Deputy Attorney General Summer Haro.
All right, and counsel for the petitioner in this matter, please state your appearance.
Yes, thank you. Nick Jerkowitz on behalf of the petitioner.
And do you have a representative from Pacific West Pharmacy that's going to be appearing with you this afternoon?
Yes, Mr. Whitney.
Art Whitney.
All right, so counsel's going to go ahead and speak for you, Mr. Whitney, until he asks you otherwise. So it's Art Whitney.
Arthur C. Whitney.
All right, just some brief instructions on how the hearing is going to proceed this afternoon. And then after I provide those instructions, if there's any questions, you can ask me at that time. In this proceeding, this is of course related to the petition for early termination of probation that has been filed by Pacific West Pharmacy in this matter. The board is concerned about rehabilitation efforts that the petitioner has undertaken since the license was disciplined in this matter. The Deputy Attorney General, Ms. Haro, will present the petition package, and she will also provide the board members with an overview and orientation of the history of discipline in this matter. Then petitioner will have an opportunity to present their case. Please remember that the board members have the benefit of having the documents that are contained in the petition package. So you don't have to repeat anything that is in the petition package, but if there are particular documents or information in the documents that have been provided that you want to draw the board's attention to, please feel free to do so. Counsel for petitioner will question Mr. Whitney concerning the request for early termination of probation. After he's done, Ms. Haro will be allowed to also question the witness. And then after Ms. Haro is done, then the board members will also have an opportunity to ask any questions if they wish. I will then give petitioner one last opportunity to provide any additional testimony before the matter then proceeds to closing arguments or closing remarks, and then the matter will be submitted to the board. You will not receive a decision today. The board will go into closed session and make a decision, which will then be put in writing and then provided to the petitioner at a later date. All right, any questions regarding the procedures for the hearing this afternoon? No?
I wanted to make an announcement that we'll be breaking for lunch after this case.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Haro, then please proceed.
Thank you. Deputy Attorney General Summer Haro. I'm appearing on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522, representing the people of the state of California. I'm here to assist the panel in fact-finding. My role is not adversarial, but is intended to protect the public interest. I'm here to ensure that the panel has adequate information from which to make a decision. I'd like to first mark for identification and offer into evidence as Exhibit 1, the petition packet with accompanying documents. Board members and petitioner have been provided with a copy of the same set of exhibits. Exhibit 1 generally consists of a petition for early termination and has attachments, which include a flyer regarding duties at the pharmacy, controlled inventory, policy and procedure, a weekly narcotics rec log sheet, a broken pills / partials log sheet, a controlled cage photo, an IV room view photo, and a camera monitor photo. There are also 4 letters of support or recommendation, which are by 2 licensed pharmacists, another one by petitioner's CPA, certified public accountant, and one by a doctor who is not aware of petitioner's discipline. Also in Exhibit 1 is the board's August 7th, 2017 decision adopting the stipulated settlement and disciplinary order. And finally, the agreement to electronic recording of the hearing. At this time, I offer this packet into evidence as Exhibit 1.
All right, Mr. Jerkowitz, any objection to the petition package identified by Ms. Haro?
None, Your Honor.
Exhibit 1 is admitted. I've also marked for identification as Exhibit 2, the notice of hearing in this matter. It's a jurisdictional document dated September 8th, 2020, and it provided notification concerning today's hearing and how to log into the hearing. Is there any objection, Ms. Haro, Mr. Jerkowitz, as to the notice of hearing be admitted for jurisdictional purposes?
No objection.
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 2 then is admitted for jurisdictional purposes. All right, Ms. Haro, if you'd please continue.
Thank you. I'll now provide a brief summary of petitioner's license history with the board. On December 16th, 1994, the board issued pharmacy permit number PHY 40592 to petitioner. On July 30th, 2016, the board filed accusation number 5745 against petitioner. The accusation alleged 3 causes of disciplinary action against petitioner for the following: violations of the pharmacy law, particularly the pharmacy technician-pharmacist ratio, a failure to maintain the pharmacy, fixtures, and equipment so that drugs were safely and properly secured, and failure to maintain a current inventory of all dangerous drugs, violation of pharmacy law and pharmacy technician, that is a repeat. So the third one was the failure to maintain current inventory of all dangerous drugs. The accusation arose from inspections by a board inspector in October and November of 2015. During those inspections, the board inspector found that on at least those 2 days, petitioner had authorized or allowed at least 4 technicians to fill prescriptions, compound sterile prescription preparations, stock ADDs, or pull drugs from stock for prescriptions when only 1 pharmacist was on duty, and that pharmacist was not in a position to directly supervise and or was not fully aware of all the activities of the technicians who were preparing and dispensing medication. The board inspector also found that there were significant shortages and overages of controlled substances, and that there was a failure to maintain accurate and current inventory of all dangerous drugs. In February 2017, petitioner entered into a stipulated settlement. In doing so, it admitted that if the disciplinary action in the accusation number 5745 proceeded to hearing, that the complainant could establish a factual basis for the charges in the accusation. The stipulation provided for the revocation of license stayed on 5 years probation pursuant to the following terms: obey all laws, quarterly reports to the board, interviews with the board, cooperate with board staff, reimbursement of board costs, probation monitoring costs. The status of the license shall remain current. There's a term providing for the license surrender while on probation or suspension. Term requiring notice to employees. Owners and officers needed to have knowledge of the law. Needed to be posted notice of the probation. A term for the violation of probation, completion of probation, and terms for remedial education, and a consultant pharmacist review of pharmacy operations. On August 7th, 2017, the board adopted the stipulation as its order. The decision became effective September 6th, 2017. Petitioner is now petitioning for early termination of its probation. And because the burden is on petitioner, I have no further statements, but reserve the right to question petitioner. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Jerkowitz, you're first witness. Actually, if you'd like to give an opening statement, you may do so, or you can just call your first witness. I will leave that up to you.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I'm just going to call my client, Mr. Whitney.
All right, Mr. Whitney, the first thing I need to do is swear you in. So if you would please raise your right hand. And I've lost you on my screen. Are you still there?
I'm here.
Okay. All right. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. Please state and spell your name.
Arthur C. Whitney, A-R-T-H-U-R, W-H-I-T-N-E-Y.
All right. So, Mr. Whitney, just a few ground rules. Your attorney is going to be asking you some questions. Please make sure that you pause after he finishes the question to make sure that he's actually finished the question. We don't want to have you talking over each other. It makes it difficult to hear the question and answer if that's the case. If you hear Ms. Haro say the word objection, she's objecting to the question that's being asked of you. Don't answer the question unless I direct you to do so. After your attorney finishes questioning you, Ms. Haro will have an opportunity to question you, and the same rules apply. After she is done, then the board members will have an opportunity to question you as well. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right, counsel, your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Whitney, can you please just tell us what your role is with the petitioner, Pacific West Pharmacy?
I'm the CEO. I started the company in 1987.
Okay. Are you a licensed pharmacist?
Yes, I am.
Mr. Whitney, I want to start by asking you some questions based on what you just heard from Ms. Haro and get some comments on that. So as Ms. Haro pointed out and provided, as is stated in the accusation, that there was an inspection that took place on 2 days in late 2015. Do you recall that inspection?
Yes.
And in the inspection, as is alleged in the accusation, the board determined that there were some deficiencies with respect to the ratio of technicians. Are you familiar with that allegation?
Yes.
Mr. Whitney, can you please tell us what steps, if any, the pharmacy has taken with respect to that issue?
Yes. Well, first of all, the PIC that was in charge of that is no longer here. So we did an extensive search, found a qualified candidate to become a PIC. We have developed scheduling. So most of our employees, whether they're input clerks or technicians, are licensed technicians. And the problem is the pharmacist that we had at the time wasn't aware of who was and who wasn't a technician or who was an input clerk. So now we've scheduled that. It's a hard schedule. And every pharmacist knows what technician is assigned to being a technician and who's an input clerk. And we've also added pharmacists so that we're overstaffed to prevent that happening again. That's monitored by our PIC and by the pharmacists.
Okay, so let me just break that up for a second. By PIC, we're talking about the pharmacist in charge. Is that correct?
Well, correct. We have numerous pharmacists on the floor at all time. We have the PIC, which is in charge, and then we have the pharmacists.
Okay, and now in late 2015, there was a pharmacist in charge who's no longer with the company, correct?
Correct.
When was that pharmacist in charge terminated?
Do you know the exact date? I have to get the exact date. We did not terminate him immediately because of California labor laws. He remained on staff not as a PIC. He was demoted to a staff pharmacist. And then when we felt there was enough sufficient time, he actually lost his license for 30 days. He wasn't on staff then. When he completed his process through the state board and was given ability to practice pharmacy, he came back for, I think it was maybe 1 or 2 months, 3 months maybe at the max. And then he was terminated when we found out one of our insurance companies would no longer allow us to have a contract because of that particular person. He was named in the accusation from the insurance company.
Okay, and so with those changes that you mentioned, for example, let's break it up a little bit. So you replaced the pharmacist in charge with a new pharmacist in charge, correct?
Correct.
Approximately how much time after the inspection did that occur?
2 months. 2 months? So let me check.
All right,
Well,
so hold on just a second.
Yeah.
I'm hearing somebody give you the answers to a question. You cannot do that. Your testimony is your own testimony. There should be nobody assisting you with your testimony. Do you understand, Mr. Whitney?
Okay. Yeah, it was about Tom Rogers was removed February 2016.
Okay. And then you also said that you obtained more pharmacists or hired more pharmacists or scheduled more pharmacists to make sure that the ratio was appropriate. Approximately how long after the inspection did you implement that new system?
About 2 weeks.
Okay. And since that time, have you been in full compliance with respect to the ratio of pharmacists to techs?
Yes.
And then you also mentioned some changes with respect to how the schedule is handled.
Yeah, so in your packet, you'll see we have posted a sign. It's Exhibit A. It says technician duties and clerk duties. And then the scheduling is done because many of our employees are licensed technicians, but at the particular day they're either scheduled as a technician or as a clerk. And now it's well defined who is a clerk and who is a technician, and all the pharmacists on staff know what those assignments are. So there's no discrepancy as far as who is and who isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Okay, now in addition to the staffing and the ratio, are there any procedures or protections in place to make sure that the pharmacists are in fact supervising and reviewing what the techs do?
We physically changed the look of the pharmacy. We moved the narcotic cage. Well, we created a narcotic cage and moved that in direct view of the pharmacist. We installed, I think we have approximately 7 cameras throughout. We changed the IV room. It's all glass, and it's exposed right to the one of the pharmacists at desk.
Okay, so am I correct in understanding that you physically changed the structure, or maybe structure is not the right word, you physically changed the arrangement of the pharmacy to be in compliance?
Yes, a major change, a major redesign.
Right. When did you implement that?
It was started about 2 weeks after the inspection, and then it took about 6 months to complete because of all the changing.
And is that same? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to stop you.
Well, it just took, because of the rebuilding counters, moving walls out, putting in cameras, took about 6 months to complete.
Okay, and is that configuration still in place now?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, how can the board of pharmacy be assured by you that this tech ratio deficiency is not going to happen again in the future?
Well, through auditing, I mean, we do have the board audits every 3 months, but we audit ourselves. But we now have a hard schedule that proves who is and who isn't on duty and what their duties are that day.
Okay. Okay. Is there anything else with respect to the tech ratio deficiency identified in the accusation that you'd like to tell the board about today that we haven't talked about already?
No, I mean, I'm not going to. We were guilty. Our pick was not doing the right thing.
And how are you sure today, as a pharmacy, that your pick will do the right thing in the future?
So we've created an audit process for our pick. You know, it's one of those trust but verify. And so quarterly, we do an audit of everything that we've asked our pick to do, and he has a printout of that. We have a printout of that, and we go through that to audit that he is doing what he's supposed to be doing, the narcotic counts, the double. We do a daily reconciliation of the controlled substances now. Our cage has electronic key on it, and only those technicians that are assigned to be doing narcotics are allowed in and out of that cage. Pool view of the pharmacist. I mean, it's a much different program than what we had before.
Okay, great, thank you. Now I want to move on to the second item that Ms. Harrow identified, and that is identified also in the accusation, and that is the controlled substances, shortages and inventory issues. Are you familiar with that cause for discipline?
Yes.
Okay. What steps, if any, has the pharmacy taken with respect to that identified deficiency?
So one of our biggest problems with that is that, we're a closed-door pharmacy. We have a lot of terminally ill patients, skilled nursing facility, and so we go through a lot of narcotics. And we were using a Pyxis system to manage the inventory. The problem was the Pyxis system did not talk to the QS1, which is the patient management system. So the inventories didn't jive. As you noted, they said that there were shortages and there were overages because there was no reconciliation between these two computerized systems. So we've eliminated the Pyxis system. And now we do a reconciliation daily. So there's a logbook. We manually include every prescription we fill that's a controlled drug. And then at the end of the day, we create a log off of the QS1 management system and compare those for discrepancies.
Okay, when you
go ahead.
No, please continue.
So the other issue was we use a lot of e-kits because we're in nursing homes. We have 30 or 40 nursing homes, and we use e-kits, and the e-kits do have a narcotic e-kit. So what had happened in the past when a patient's admitted and they go to the e-kit for a stat narcotic, that kit comes back. We were not reconciling that tablet coming out of there. So it would always show a distorted inventory if you did an overall collection. So if you notice, there was no accusation of diversion. There was none of these meds were found out on the street. This was an accounting error, a huge accounting error. And it would never come equal because of these two computer systems that didn't match. And we weren't reconciling the e-kits, which there are probably about 120 e-kits with narcotics in them. So that's all been changed now. All the narcotic e-kits are actually counted and they're actually billed for. In the past, we never billed for them because it was just so much labor intensive trying to track that down. Although there were valid prescriptions for everything, we didn't take it out of one inventory and put it in another inventory. That's all been changed. Now that's all reconciled daily.
Okay, thank you. Now, just to follow up on the reconciling daily, and you mentioned manually. So when you say manually, does that mean that someone is actually not a computer, but rather a human being is actually reconciling this?
Correct. We have a logbook, and every time a controlled drug is filled inside the cage, So no one's allowed inside the cage, and no drugs are allowed outside of the cage. A pharmacist is the only person that can take those drugs out of the cage once they've been filled, labeled, and checked off by the pharmacist. So when a technician is in that cage filling prescriptions, when they pull a bottle down of oxycodone and take 30 out, they record that into a manually logged book. At the end for each drug. At the end of the day, the following day, those are totaled, and then we run a log off of our management system to make sure that if we dispensed 1,000 oxycodone, there was 1,000 oxycodone written down.
Okay. And in terms of this new system, do you believe it's sufficiently strong enough to prevent any type of recurrence of a counting error or a failure to properly, maintain proper inventory?
Yes, it's a perpetual inventory. It's the only way we found that we could control any ongoing problems if there was a problem in accounting. This was the only way to do it. It's unfortunate that it's very, very labor intensive, but there were no computer programs that allowed us to do it appropriately and effectively.
Is there anything else with respect to the allegations or the improvements of maintaining, the logs and the drugs that you haven't testified to today that you'd like to mention?
No, other than we do the daily reconciliations, we do the quarterly reconciliations, and we do biannual reconciliation on the Schedule 3, 4s, and 5s. Schedule 2s are reconciled, are daily reconciled, but then we do an audit every quarter. And so we're now taking consideration, if there's a broken tablet, someone has to record that. If a tablet falls on the floor, someone has to record that.
Thank you. I want to move on to the last allegation in the accusation, and that is with respect to the furnitures and the fixtures. Are you familiar with that allegation?
I'm not really understanding what they were talking about, because it's an open air closed door pharmacy, and I don't know in specific what they're talking about, other than if it was viewing the IV room, and that's the only picture I can think of, because it was a closed room, and we pulled that out and put a solid glass room in, so that it was visible 360.
Okay, and so that would be my follow-up question is you've made structural, and as you testified to already, structural and layout changes to the pharmacy to address any fixture or furniture issues. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I want to talk about ask you a few questions. In your in the petition for early termination, there's a section in here that discusses some additional changes and additional issues identified and fixed by the pharmacy that were not part of the accusation. Are you generally familiar with that part of the petition?
I should be. What part are we talking about?
So I want to ask you about some of these changes that are identified there. For example, the changes with respect to the emergency kits.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, is there anything about that other than what you've testified to already that you identified problems with the emergency kits and that you made changes?
No, I mean, we were not reconciling the emergency kits. And that now has been changed. We do it when the kit comes in, and we've got receipts inside that are logged in. They've always been logged in, but we've never adjudicated them. Now they're being adjudicated.
Okay. I see. And I think you've already discussed the broken pills, correct?
Right. Broken pills, tablets on the floor, that all goes in the logbook.
Right. And you discussed the not following the P's and P's, which is respect to the well, actually, what does that refer to, not following the P's and P's?
I'm sorry. What was the question?
It's respect to the policies and procedures, staff not following policies and procedures.
Oh, yes. Well, so we, as far as the technicians go, we put this huge poster up that says, here are clerk duties, here are technician duties. And then, every day there's a schedule out who's assigned to what. And everybody's made aware of it. It's very public.
And then you also, I believe you testified to this, but is there anything else to tell us with respect to the installed controlled cage?
Well, the cage was built, and then electronic lock was put on it. So only technicians that are approved to be working in the narcotic have an electronic key that allows them into the cage. And the cage is in full sight of the pharmacist. And again, nothing leaves the cage without a pharmacist signing off on it.
Wonderful, thank you. Mr. Whitney, do you acknowledge that there were some deficiencies on the part of the pharmacy, at or around the time this accusation was filed?
Yes, by all means.
And are you remorseful of that? What's your position on the fact that the pharmacy was deficient in the past?
Well, I take full responsibility for it. The pick was a person that I had hired, and I trusted and didn't verify, and that was the wrong thing to do. You just have to verify, no matter how good you think somebody is. You've got to go in. I mean, we had conversations continually, and are you doing this? Are you doing it? Yeah. Well, that didn't help. You've got to go in and actually look and see what's going on and ask for documentation, ask for audits, that type of thing. That's what we do now.
Right. In terms of, I want to ask you, in a general sense, why do you want the pharmacy to be taken off probation at this time?
Well, the biggest problem is we're closer to a pharmacy and we service skilled nursing facilities. So we contract with a nursing home or a skilled nursing facility to provide all their medications. So when this happened, one of the PBMs we work with canceled our contract because of our PICS name popping up on the list. And so what happens is we have a contract. We continually provide medications to those patients that are covered by that PBM that are in that skilled nursing facility. So the financial burden is probably around $18,000 a month. But we can't stop servicing the facility. We have a contract, so we have to eat that.
And is it your position that if you're removed from probation, you would be allowed to bill again to that PBM?
No guarantee. We would have to apply. Once we're off probation, we would apply and go through the attestation process.
Okay. Do you have any other do you have any concerns that any other PBMs could in the future cancel your contract?
Yes. So there are probably 6 to 8 different major PBMs, and we are at risk at any given point in time for someone to walk in and say, we're canceling you because you're on probation. In all of our attestations, we have to put in there that we are on probation, and we have to give an explanation what's going on.
Okay. Mr. Whitney, is there anything else that we haven't discussed so far that you feel would be important for the board to know that you want to tell them?
Well, other than, when I saw the investigation, I was involved in when they came out and did the survey. I was shocked to see what I saw. We immediately started making remedies, just a few days after that when we discovered what was really wrong. Actually, when the allegations came, I called whoever it is, the Attorney General's office, and said, listen, we were wrong. I want to get to the bottom of this. I want to get cleaned. Let's do it. Whatever I have to do, let's do it. And we did that. Unfortunately, the stipulation, no one advised us that potentially the PBM contracts would be at risk. And that's what was a shock to us afterwards.
Thank you. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
All right, Ms. Haro, any questions for Mr. Whitney?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Whitney, you've told us a lot about the reconciliation process that you're doing and the employment or the staffing on a daily basis and the audit. Can you tell us how frequently you personally are at the pharmacy?
Right now, limited because of COVID. I'm over 70. I'm at risk. But prior to that, every day. Actually, in the operation.
And I understand COVID. That's why we're all here on video right now.
Right.
Besides the COVID, when you were there every day, so prior to COVID, you were there every day. And was that for virtually or essentially the entire time you've been on probation? The pharmacy's been on probation?
Yeah, pretty much, except for the COVID, yes. You have to understand, I started this company in 1987. It's 32 years old. I have employees that have been there for 30 years. So it's sort of like a family-run operation. And so it was nothing for me to come, even though I may not be in there dispensing prescriptions. I walk in and say, good morning to these people. I've known them for 20, 30 years.
Prior to the inspections that led to the accusation, prior to that, how often were you personally in the pharmacy?
About the same, about every day. I had communications with our PIC every day. What's going on? How are things happening? What's staffing? The general, questions you would ask to make sure everything is running smoothly. That's where the problem was. I believed what I was being told. There was no physical paper audit that said, prove to me what you're telling me. Now I have that. I have hourly timesheets. I have lists of who's working, who's not working, who's a tech, who's not a tech. We have the count book. I see who checks in the narcotics. I see where they go. And then the extra cameras allow us to, if I'm off site, I can pull into my laptop and look at all the cameras.
Thank you. The petition for early termination that was submitted to the board, did you sign that petition or did someone else sign it?
I'd have to see it. I think I signed everything. I'm the CEO. I have my son is the COO, Corey Whitney. He was made CEO about 10 months ago, Chief Operating Officer.
Does he have authority to sign on behalf of the board? Or excuse me, on behalf of the pharmacy?
No. Well, it depends on what we're talking about. Let's go back there. For what documents? I mean, he can sign operational issues, but he can't sign licensing issues.
Okay. Do you have a copy of the petition packet with you?
Let me see. No, I don't. Let's see. He prepares a lot of our paperwork, so he may have signed it also. I don't know. No, I don't. Let me see. Oh, I'm sorry. He signed the petition for early termination. Yes. I have it right here.
All right.
Yes.
I assume he had authority to sign that on the pharmacy's behalf?
Yes. I mean, he would not sign anything unless he asked me first.
Thank you. No questions, Judge.
All right, I'm going to now open up the questions to our board members, starting with our president. Do you have any questions for Mr. Whitney?
No, just to point out something. Your son signed this petition, but there were a couple questions that weren't answered properly. One of them says, it was number 14, and you have it now. Are you now on probation or parole for any criminal or administrative violations in this state or any other state? He said no, but you actually are on probation for administrative violations. And then on 15, the same type of thing. Ever had disciplinary action taken against pharmacist licensed in the state or any other state? Well, I guess
that's a pharmacist license, though.
Yeah, you're right. It's not the pharmacy. So 15 is okay, but 14 was off. But what I did want to say is that you've made a lot of corrections, and I commend you for that.
Ms. Field, any questions for Mr. Whitney?
I don't think she's back yet, Your Honor.
Oh, all right. Dr. Serpa, any questions for Mr. Whitney?
Yes, just an item of follow-up. I really appreciate the detail of his testimony regarding the audits, the daily audits, and he also made reference to the quarterly controlled substance audits that are required by the board. So I just wondered if you could follow up a little bit on, since you do daily audits and find issues early or address them early, on your last two quarterly reconciliation audits, the ones that are required by the board, how would you explain? Can you share with us the results of those audits? And did you find any discrepancies in counts in the last two audits?
I don't have those with me in front of me, but I can tell you the ones that we've looked at, you know, you might find 3 tablets, never more than 30 tablets in a 90-day period that we were off, and it was usually an accounting error.
So the accounting errors could be explained, but have you found any unexplained
No.
issues during your quarterly audits?
No, none.
Great, thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Brooks, any questions for Mr. Whitney?
No questions at this time. Thank you, Judge.
All right, Dr. Butler, any questions for Mr. Whitney?
I don't.
All right, Dr. O, any questions for Mr. Whitney?
No questions. Thank you.
Mr. Patel, any questions for Mr. Whitney?
Questions, thank you.
Mr. Sanchez, any questions for Mr. Whitney?
Not a question, but I just wanted to say thank you for acknowledging, you know, the mistakes and then following up to correct everything. That's pretty much what we look for here, is for licensees to actually acknowledge that they made, you know, whether they made a mistake and corrections. And you've done a really nice job putting things back together. Just want to say thank you. That's very admirable and very eloquent in putting it all out. Thank you.
Mr. Long, any questions for Mr. Whitney?
No question, but I did what Mr. Sanchez said. I think that's what we're supposed to do. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Weiss, any questions for Mr. Whitney?
Yes, Mr. Whitney, you have taken numerous measures to right this ship. Can you tell me how long you have had all of these corrections implemented as a form of practice, and how has it gone?
Everything was completed about 6 months after the investigation or the survey team that came out, the board inspectors. It took us about 6 months to complete it. It's gone great. A little labor intensive, but it's pulled everybody to kind of walk this very, very straight line. We don't talk other issues that we had in the past.
All right, any further questions from our board members? No? All right, any further testimony from Mr. Whitney?
No, Your Honor.
All right, and any additional evidence from petitioner?
No, Your Honor.
All right, then with that, would you like to give brief closing remarks?
Yes, Your Honor. Should I go first?
Yes, you do. You go first because petitioner has the burden of proof, and then Ms. Haro will go next.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you to the board for your consideration and attention today. I think the evidence overwhelmingly shows that my client is entitled to early termination of probation. My client recognized the mistake it had made in its operations and sought almost immediately to remedy any deficiencies. Pacific has been in full compliance with all probationary terms and has followed all requirements, both stated in the stipulated settlement and at the request of any probation monitor. Many of the problems that resulted in the accusation and discipline stemmed from a lack of oversight from the pharmacist in charge, who was removed before the settlement was entered into. Pacific has taken active steps to ensure that the tech ratio is in compliance, that there is proper oversight of the technicians and the pharmacists, and that inventory of controlled substances are being properly maintained and maintaining proper equipment and fixtures. Pacific has demonstrated true remediation and shown a genuine desire to be the most in compliance it can be. As you heard from my client, the current probation is also devastating. It's resulted in lost revenue and lost contracts with PBMs, and it could result in further cancellations in the future. I want to highlight that the purpose of these proceedings and board disciplinary actions are always to protect the public, and we fully understand that. These proceedings are not meant to, nor should they be, a mechanism of punishment. And when a licensee has demonstrated full compliance and there is no longer a recognizable danger to the public, the licensee should have its probation lifted. In this case, there is no longer a recognizable danger to the public, as Pacific has rectified all deficiencies, and keeping Pacific on probation is not necessary to protect the public. Having fully complied with its probation and having rectified all deficiencies, even ones not identified by the board, keeping Pacific on probation only serves to punish them and does not provide any public benefit. Further, the period of 3+ years of probation that has already taken place here is sufficiently long enough to have made Pacific aware of the need to be in complete compliance with pharmacy board regulations and will serve to deter any future wrongdoing. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Haro, any closing remarks?
Nothing further, I submit.
All right, and Mr. Jerkowitz, is the matter submitted on behalf of petitioner?
Yes, submitted, Your Honor.
All right, the matter is submitted and the record is closed. We are done with this hearing. And it's my understanding we are taking a lunch break, so I will turn it over to our president.
Correct. Let's take a break. It's now 1:33. Let's come back at 10 after 2.
All right, and so we have one more petition hearing. Ms. Lee is, I believe, our last petition hearing. And so that will start at 2:10, is that correct?
2:10, correct.